There we go.
All right, here we go. So we are going to be talking about the lines in dark romance, and I'm just going to preface it, if you will, for us readers. I'm going to preface it with it's just our opinions, honestly. So this is not the end all be all.
No, this is the end all be all.
What we think
We will not allow.
Okay, and should be banned from Amazon. What we think is okay shouldn't be flagged by anybody, that type of thing. But it really does come down to opinion. And I think the thing with dark romance is it's very subjective because people have wildly different opinions. So it should be interesting. We'll see how much we, as people who actually enjoy it, agree or not. So I'd like for you to introduce yourself, your channel, and I would like for you to mention whatever dark content you read. Not like what you like in dark romance, but like if you read dark romance and you read horror and you read thriller, you can list all those, or grimdark, whatever. But just so people get an idea, I guess I'll go first. I'm Heather from Mia BookTubes. You found me. I pretty much just read romance at this point in my life, and I am a scaredy cat. So I don't read much besides like fantasy and dark romance. I'm kind of terrified of everything else, so it's fine.
Well, hello, my name is Nicole. My channel name is Who Picked This Book, and I do predominantly read romance, but I read like horror, thriller, really any genre is fair game, so I'll read anything once, honestly.
Hi, I'm Steph from the Novelty Corner, and I'm a bit the same. I do read predominantly romance now, but I have read thriller, and I do occasionally dip into horror sometimes if I find something that sounds like it'd be up my alley, and also sometimes sci-fi thriller, sci-fi horror as well.
Hi, I'm Deja from Deja's Book World. Oh, no, what did you want?
No, I thought, no, you're good. You're good. Got it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Deja from Deja's Book World. I read, dark romance I really like. And then I do read thrillers and horror. I literally love anything spooky, like true crime, horror movies, like anything like that. I like to be scared.
Yeah.
No, I'm stunned right now that Heather didn't start yelling at you for going the wrong direction, because everyone knows the direction to go according to Heather. Sorry, I have to yell at her.
We do this every time.
And I didn't want to the second she spoke be like, you were doing it wrong.
I know, because they add I was the last person added, but usually in live shows they go it
was I didn't.
Heather goes down and over. It's fine. I just had to give her shit. You're fine. You're fine, Deja.
Okay.
It's not you I'm giving shit to. I'm giving Heather all the shit.
Yeah, I do yell at this on every live. So they're like, "Oh, I'm like, yes, go this way."
I had to. All right. I'll stop giving you shit now. I guess for now.
When Deja started talking, I was like, "Yes!"
I know. I get to be mean to Heather.
You all knew it was coming.
I'm Izzy from Happy for Now. I feel like I read kind of across genres a little bit, predominantly romance, but I do dabble in horror. Like, I really liked Stephen Graham Jones' book last year, The Only Good Indians. Is that what it was? Yeah, so I really liked that. Like, I like Mexican Gothic. So I'm I'll poke at it. But I'm also reading it in broad, streaming into the house. It is not a nighttime read for me. But I read thrillers, all that good stuff. I hop genres when I'm feeling slumpy. So,
hi everyone. My name is Naima. My channel is Naima's Reads over there, and for the most part, I read romance. I did get into a thriller kick maybe last summer, and I really enjoyed them. I haven't been reading that many recently, and I read fantasy occasionally, just basically whatever's popular. And yeah, that's all I read, to be honest.
Cool. I'm glad we covered that. My mouse still won't work. It's fine. It's okay. I'm not freaking out over here.
Are you sure?
Everything. Okay.
Do you need to charge it or change the battery?
Listen, I need to charge it probably. It's too late now. So what are we going to do? Nothing. Just freak out. Okay, so I've been seeing a few different things about like what constitutes a dark romance. In fact, I saw Katie Robert talking about it with some other authors on Twitter, talking about like, okay, but like my heroine gets kidnapped, and people are like, no, you can't call that a dark romance. So for you, what would be the difference between a dark romance and just like romantic suspense, where maybe some of the same elements come into play, but for me, it's not in the same way? So what would you say, Nicole?
With the whole kidnapping thing, I like my only caveat is like, is the other protagonist, meaning her love interest, somehow involved in the kidnapping or somehow involved in whatever is quote unquote taboo, whether it would be like the kidnapping or the dubious consent or something like that. That's usually for me what I would consider dark, is if the protagonist is doing it to the other protagonist.
Right.
That's kind of dark in that aspect. I 100% agree with you. Like just kidnapping, run-of-the-mill kidnapping, that happens in literally every single romantic suspense. Like the heroine gets kidnapped. It's a thing. But it's not necessarily by her love interest. So I wouldn't necessarily consider that like just kidnapping, just that broad spectrum, dark. It would have to be, I think, it's just that if the protagonists are doing it to the other one, the love interest.
Right. I agree. Very much so.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was going to say, I don't really think I have anything that's different to that, because I think to make it dark, it has to be you question the relationship between the two characters. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some reason, well, why would they be together?
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with both of those things. I like have a hard time because sometimes I'll classify like something as dark and then other people are talking about like other, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like what I'm reading isn't necessarily super dark for some reason. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I agree, if you're like questioning the main characters and why they're together and like what is driving their relationship, because there's obviously all this like animosity in all this, I would consider that to be dark.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat. I think dark for me is like the hero or heroine, whoever, has to be morally gray in some capacity. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily have to be fully bad, right? But I feel like there's got to be like some morally grayness going on where you're like, I don't know why you're like interested in them. Are you really interested in them? Is this, are you using them for ulterior motives, perhaps? So that's where I kind of view it.
Yeah, I completely agree with everybody. And like with the morally gray too, I feel like I even question, like I like it when I question, like, do I even like this character? Mm-hmm. Do I not? Like, I feel like that is something that I really think is in a lot of dark romance, is like questioning if you even like the character and their own morality. Yeah.
So I think mostly it does depend, one, how graphic do things get. So technically, if really bad things are happening to the main character and it's not even the hero doing it, it would still fall into a dark romance for me. But if it's something like kidnapping or a stalker or people killing people, it's only dark to me if it's the main character and or love interest who are the ones who are creating or doing those acts. And I think that would be the main difference with the same content between romantic suspense and dark romance. So Ezra asked a question, and I know a lot of people marketed Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin as a dark romance. And I think in some ways, I didn't read it, but I know what all happens in it. I think in some ways that makes sense, because if you're just expecting a historical romance, then I don't think you'd be happy with the content that you got in it necessarily. But I know like Izzy read it. I was like, this is not super dark, guys.
No, everyone was like, it's so dark. It's so taboo and forbidden. I was like, can I spoil it? Does anybody care?
I don't care.
If you care, I won't spoil it.
But I don't care.
I haven't read it, but
like they end up in a throuple. Like, ooh, it's a throuple, guys. So forbidden.
Yeah.
Like I was just like,
okay. Do you think that they sexual assault content in it, do you think that drove it into dark romance or not?
It just pissed me off personally, the way it was handled. I didn't think it was handled well. I don't love when heroes sexually assault heroines.
Right.
That'll be something that we'll talk about in my like things like that I personally just don't prefer. But I also just felt like it was just really, really not done well. Like the concept of the book, amazing. The execution for me was like, what do you guys mean this is dark? Like I literally walked away from that book like this wasn't dark. It was like
that's where I'm like, sorry. Keep going.
You're fine. I feel like it's like dark light, but not even. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like maybe a stepping stone.
Well, I feel like
a lot of it.
It's kind of like heat ratings where one person's like 9 flames and one person's like 2 flames.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Naima, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that's like another, like everybody has like what they think is dark, and so sometimes I feel weird saying like, oh, this book is dark because it's like kind of dark for me, but like other people who have read beyond that. So I feel like sometimes weird saying, oh, this is a dark romance because I don't know. I think everything is dark in my opinion. So
I mean, it can be like, and a lot of people I saw that were like, this is a dark romance, were people that don't read dark romances like we all read for the most part.
Yeah. I think it comes down a lot to what tropes and what taboo content people consider dark as well.
you see, I thought some content in Longshot was dark because there's a lot of, but I don't know. I wouldn't classify that as a super dark romance, you know?
this is another one that I haven't read, but I know what all happened.
It's heavy. I would consider that book heavy, like emotionally heavy, more than I would consider it dark. Because dark romances aren't necessarily like emotionally heavy in the same way that like a Kennedy Ryan book is. And then she lives in a specific category that is Kennedy Ryan emotional books. So
yeah.
Right.
She does make me cry. Most books
I tend to hear it recommended as is gut wrenching rather than dark.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I was gonna say. I totally had something.
Oh, you know what though? Okay, I will say a big difference there is that I feel like Longshot comes with more content warnings than you'll find on a dark romance sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
We clearly knew in Longshot she's not supposed to be with this guy. Like I feel like in dark romances you're like kind of questioning like I kind of like this. Like we knew like no.
Why do I like this murderous rampage?
Yeah.
Go on for her.
Yes. Especially like sociopaths as the love interest in dark romance.
Yes.
Give me a morality chain. Thank you very much.
Yes. So let's start with what you think then is the difference between just yakking somebody's yum, right? To steal a phrase from Mara that she uses all the time and is now stuck in my head. Where you're like, it's not for me, but I understand somebody else liking it. And then what's the difference between that and things that you're like, I just don't think we should include this. I don't think it should be in the books. I don't think we should do it. I'm not here for it. I think it should be banned on Amazon, censor all the things or not. It doesn't matter. But I feel like there's a lot of things where some of it falls under personal taste and some of it just seems very questionable.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? Or I can. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, with the whole personal taste thing, because obviously there are layers to dark romance. Like someone said in the comments that something being dark is very subjective. So it's just like what you are comfortable with. So I think that's also why content trigger warnings are very important, especially when dabbling in dark romance, because, if you're not prepared, things can happen and it could be like a hard pass for you. Like for me personally, I don't like it when, again, like either hero or heroine, whoever the protagonists are, the love interest, they, sexually assault, rape, or harm them in any way. Like I don't particularly like that when they do that to each other, because then for me, it comes to, especially if it's a true romance and it ends in a happily ever after, happily for now, you're going to have to make me believe that this person somehow forgave the other person for doing that garbage to them. And that's where it's kind of hard for me. Like, you have to make me believe that they have groveled enough and they're really sorry and they end up together.
Right. Right.
But a lot of dark romances, I mean, no, I wouldn't say a lot, but some dark that I've read, they don't end in happily ever after, happy for now. So is that more like erotica, or is that more, to romance? And that could be like a whole nother topic that we could talk about.
Yeah. I get like, especially if it's dark, I get very angry if I don't get my happily ever after. And honestly, I think if it's like super dark, I especially don't like if it's taking many, many books to get the happily ever after, because that just seems like a lot of unnecessary trauma to reach the same conclusion. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. That's just personal. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I think, again, it's really similar, and I struggle if it's the hero or the heroine sexually assaulting the other protagonist. Mm-hmm. I don't know where you can get a redemption arc in a romance for that. Mm-hmm. And that, I think if you know it going into it and you know it's not a romance, then I think I can almost distance myself from it enough to read it. But I think if it's categorized as a romance and there's no content warnings, then that's a really, really hard sell for me personally. Mm-hmm. Same thing with violence against the partner. I think it hits too close to home with just people that I know and the experiences that I've had, that it's just not something that I want to particularly read about, and I don't think is necessarily redeemable. Okay. Yep. Especially since I like to read books and I like the escape of it. I find that very stressful to read about.
Right. What about you, Naima?
I almost feel like I don't really have any like limits. I don't know. I feel like I haven't read enough to be like, or really even truly like horrible dark romances to like say like I have this line. I feel like, because there was a book, I feel really weird saying this, Untouchable by Sam Mariano. I
read it.
Yeah, he like sexually assaulted the heroine like a lot, and I still like the book, so like I don't know. I feel like I feel like personally
you're not alone, so don't worry about it.
There's nothing wrong with liking it too, like, because we have to remember the key is that you can like things and recognize like, yeah, that's not okay, that's not what you want in a real relationship. But in the book it was well written and well delivered, so it worked. That's valid. There's no shame here.
Oh no, absolutely not. And we'd like, obviously, like, yeah, exactly what Izzy said. Like, we know like this is not healthy in a real relationship, but this is fiction. We're reading fiction work, and people can read and like whatever they want.
And I know 100%. For me specifically with Untouchable by Sam Mariano, as well as their Christmas one, which was Kidnapped by the Hitman, which was a Christmas romance by them, and then also Truly by Cromwell Rhodes. I knew that the entire dark content and the entire plot was at the beginning. The hero sexually assaults the main character, and then the whole book is kind of their relationship and can they have a relationship after that. With the Christmas one, it was much more just kind of dubious consent rather than sexual assault. But Untouchable and Truly both were very specifically sexual assault on page by the hero to varying degrees. And the entire book is, can they have a relationship? And I did like both of them. One I liked better than the other. But yeah, so I'm with you, Naima. Anything more to add? Because I don't want you to feel like you can't.
Oh no. I don't feel like you guys are judging me or anyone in the chat. I know you guys. It's fine. Okay. So basically, for like something that I think that like shouldn't be written or like banned by Amazon, whatever, is anything, between like, I know Izzy talked about this a few times in her monthly. What are they called again?
Romancelandia monthlies. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I really just hate, especially in like the current climate that we are in, is Republican and Democrat ones. This isn't dark romance, but whatever. And then,
Maybe those should
be thriller.
and then also just like in like a slave setting, that like historical romances I really despise, can't stand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me.
I mean, I pretty much agree with that. For me, my "it should not happen" line is basically anything Charity B writes, because she writes necrophilia, massive amounts of incest, scalping, and all kinds of really not good things. My other no-goes are always slave romances, anything with Nazis or KKK members or white supremacists in general. That's a no-go. No one should write that, and you can go fuck off if you do, because that's just like not okay.
Not okay.
Yeah.
I do want to touch real quick on what Ezra said here, though. I think you should not consider a sexual practice like BDSM a dark thing inherently, because that just because there's BDSM in a book doesn't necessarily mean like it's dark. Like, I don't feel like you can blanket categorize that.
True BDSM automatically means that it's consensual, which means that it's just kink, which means it's not dark content, because it's not a life event happening without any control or against the will of the main character. Is a consensual kink, so that's different.
I feel like it can be a slippery slope for people where they want to like make it all dark, and it's like it is in a lot of dark romance. That does not mean inherently that BDSM is dark, though.
Exactly.
I have read some very like sweet or BDSM romantic suspense with BDSM is not dark. Like, you know.
Right. I agree very much.
Yeah. That's all. That's all I got.
Oh. So is it my turn? Are we talking about a comment? I agree with like especially like the incest and the necrophilia and like super intense like torture. I feel like I could read it in like a thriller or something like that, because like I would be disgusted and like, but that's like the point. But I feel like in a dark romance, like there needs to be some redeemable factor, and I don't think it would be there. Like, so like in a thriller or a horror, I would be like, yes, disgusting. We love to see it. But like in a dark romance, I feel like it would just be too much for me, and I just wouldn't. Just no, not for me.
Right.
It's that redeemable factor. Like, how far can either protagonist go in pushing those boundaries and doing, you know, terrible things, and then being, you know, forgiven and redeemed to have a happily ever after.
Well, and how do you get an actual happy for now or happily ever after with incest? I feel like that's just impossible. Like truly like that, or necrophilia, or any like even when I read The Skeleton King, I walked away like, well, that was an HEA, but
it was
no.
Right. Yeah. For me, I mean, I'm not on the I'll try anything once train. I'm not. There are lots of things that I'm like, no, I have zero interest. No, thank you. So for me, like, I think I always think about this, because you hear people talking about how this is an issue for them, is when is your trauma that was put on you against your will, right? And then like incest, it becomes kind of the punchline or the butt of the joke for everybody. And then there are people who have survived it who were not willing participants, right? And so for them, sometimes I think that it can be therapeutic. I don't know, truthfully. This is just like, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know anything. I'm not a survivor. Like, I'm just a random bystander, right? I don't understand seeing it in a HEA. That's kind of my thing. But I can't understand the idea that writing about it or even reading that other people had an experience like you can be therapeutic for some people. Some people want to completely avoid seeing their trauma in a book, and other people benefit from seeing that somebody else lived it, right? So I always hate to just be like, this shouldn't exist, because there are people that has happened to, and they weren't to blame, right? But at the same time, for me, as just a reader, I'm never going to be okay with incest, and I'm never going to be okay with significantly underage stuff. So let's say he's 19 and she's 17. That's not super taboo to me, but he's 30 and she's 17. That's more taboo. Like, if you're going to do an age cap, it's just my opinion, I think the only way to do it is for them to be of legal age. I don't think that you can have an age gap and then be underage and not just call it predatory behavior, right? Rather than a romance.
Well, even an 18-year-old and 30-year-old, at what point is that grooming?
Right.
There's still power dynamic imbalances in that relationship.
But it would need to be, well, for me, if I'm going to enjoy it, it's going to be like Little Dove by Layla Frost, where it's kind of a dark romance anyways, and he didn't know her previously, right? I always think if you're going to have an age gap and they are just barely legal, they can't have known each other for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, that is going to be implied grooming, in my opinion. They have to have met within like the last year, at least. But so that's for me. So I feel like I could say that the line is like if it's illegal, but that's not true, because I'm totally fine with him kidnapping her or like him killing people or her killing people or like, you know. So it's not really true either. But at the same time, I feel like if it's illegal for them to have a relationship, then I'm probably against it. Like, it's a hard pass for me.
Really quick before we move on, I would like to change my answer. Before I said that I would not read, or there wasn't anything that I would read, I completely agree with incest. That's not even like something on my radar that like I think about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's nothing. But no, incest, I will never, ever, ever. No.
But you know what, Nova? I think that's the case. There's things that I know I will never read, and so I don't even think about them as being potentials, because even if they come on my radar, it's like, that's not there. I'm not going anywhere near it.
Like, I'll read anything once, doesn't include those things because in my mind they don't exist.
Don't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. I mean, I read The Skeleton King, but that did not have incest. That just had necrophilia.
You made me read that. So
I did not make you read it. I told everyone not to read it, and you didn't listen to me.
That's the problem. You told them not to read it, so of course they did. You never tell someone. You just go, this is what's in it. Don't tell them no. Some people can't help themselves.
I'm gonna read something even worse, and I'm gonna be like,
my
read
mouth
this.
is working. I can
What are you gonna read now, Izzy?
Good.
Even
I'm
worse?
gonna find something worse.
Why?
Oh, I
And
quit.
then you're
Never
gonna make me
mind.
read it.
Never
It's a
mind.
new mission.
New mission. Instead of stopping you from reading it, I will encourage the worst book.
Oh, it worked. It's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, so I feel like heroines falling in love with their captors, there's a wide range, again, for just about everything. There's a wide range. And I think a lot of it does depend on how the author just executes it. So like my first dark romances were too dark for me. I kind of read them by accident, but like it was okay. So I blame my fantasy origin story. I can't find the words, but you know, like I started out as a fantasy reader, so I like enemies to lovers, like assassins and opposite kingdoms, and in that it's not all that uncommon for like the assassin to take the opposing princess captive or whatever. Like that's a very common thing. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just read the same thing contemporary. I started out way too dark. Dark.
I went in the deep end real quick.
I'm pretty sure Pepper Winters was one of the first dark authors I read.
Me
And it
too.
was like Tears of Tess and all that. And I devoured them.
I
And
read
look back.
her like penny series, and I made it to like dollars, and she like ran away and they were like separated. And I was like, I can't do 3 more books of this. I cannot. I'm out. That was like where I stopped. But so like even like falling in love with your captor, there's wildly different ranges, right? For me, for instance, I like my dark content to either be kind of like a captive scenario, not where they're like abusing them. Does this make sense? Okay, I like my dark content often to be a loss of will or like dubious consent or even non-consent. because I don't know. I like that redemption arc. And also I like when it's like, well, I'm going to be with you and I don't care if you say no. Or it's one instance of like crossing the line or something like that. I don't like where it's like a whole book of the hero abusing the heroine or multiple books. Because I don't feel like at that point that you are getting a redemption arc. So I like my content to usually be, well, things are happening and I can't control it. And I kind of like for them to end up happy with that. Just like, I'm going to make the best of it. So I'm locked in this mansion. Oh, wow. Like, let's go hang out by the pool, So for me, I can handle that particular thing going a little bit darker. Whereas with probably anything where like they're being abused to the point of pain or they're being abused to where mentally they are struggling, I need like very light on that. So for you, which things are you like, I can handle more in this one aspect because that's what I like my dark romance to be. And then other things, it needs to almost not be there in order for me to enjoy the book.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like the one thing that I can't handle is the protagonist hurting the other one. Either that would be sexually, that would be torture, that would be, or getting to the point where their mental health is suffering, I'm at that point where there's no way that it can be redeemed, in my mind. I mean, obviously it depends on how the author writes it. Do they write, a good redemption arc? Does the, one of the protagonists that's not in that situation, do they save the other protagonist? Do they fight against the person that's holding them captive and kind of, be the hero in that regard, getting them out of that situation? So that's kind of my line too. It's just physical abuse and, like torture, things like that. Like, don't make the other person bleed. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the most succinct way to say it. Don't make the other person bleed. That would that's my line. But I suppose the thing that I like seeing a lot of is, again, one of the two protagonists basically being the quote unquote bad person of the relationship, but doing anything for their partner.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can handle everything as long as they're not taking any of that rage, anger, whatever the issue is, out on their partner or the other protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree with all of that. I feel like in some cases, I don't know, like when a hero or whoever is like slamming the heroine against the wall, like I don't mind that. Okay, it's fine. But then like if they're like exactly like mentally suffering from like the captor-captive, whatever, and physically like I don't know, just like obviously something that's like you read it and you feel sick, like I can't really stand. But I don't mind if they're a little rough. I really don't. Not even like in a sexual way, just like whatever, you get mad. I don't mind that. But yeah.
I feel like my lines are probably weird. I don't like when a hero controls food stuff. That bothers me. I'm someone who is in recovery from an eating disorder, so food stuffs always can be weird. Not if it's like making sure they're eating, like that kind of caretaking side. It's more when they're like trying to like monitor it or be weird about stuff. Don't come across it often, but it will occasionally come up in dark romances. Specifically usually in the captor-captive stuff, I feel like, where they're like overly controlling on what they're eating. Slash if they're even feeding them. But my line is similar, I guess. I don't mind if they like slam them against a wall. Generally speaking, like just no blood. I can, but if the author writes it good enough, I'm in. That's the hardest part. I think on dark romances, if you write it well enough, I'm in. But like I can deal with like some like dubious consent usually. And I think it also varies wildly on my mood. If I am in the mood for it, it's all good. If I'm not in the mood for it, I'm like, this book, I'm done. I'm not finishing this book.
Yeah. I'm actually like, blood doesn't really bother me. I don't know if that's weird to say, but like it doesn't. I think because like in general, like blood like fascinates me, like in general, like as a person. So I think it doesn't really bother
Are
me.
you a vampire? Should we be concerned?
No, it's like that's why like it's gonna be really weird, but like I like to give blood because I like to like watch it. Like I think it's cool. So like blood doesn't really bother me. I just don't like want like too much torture, pain. Like if it's more than like blood, I feel like I can't. Like I don't know why the eyes are coming to me, but I don't know why the eyes are no. Like it's just in my head. But like light torture, I feel like doesn't bother me. I once read this fan fiction. I don't know why it's coming to my head, but it really had me shook. Okay, and I was like, I don't know if I like this, but I don't know if I don't like it. And I just kept reading it, and it was very much torture. And I was like, okay, we're here, I guess. But I think it depends because like for me, it's like if the two characters have a genuine reason to like really hate each other and for like torture to occur, especially in like a fantasy setting or something like that, I feel like it doesn't really bother me. If it's more of like a contemporary setting, I don't like that.
Right.
The
I agree.
setting
I think
impacts it.
I think I can be more forgiving sometimes in a fantasy setting or
Yeah.
paranormal setting for it than I am in a contemporary for sure.
Because
Well, I
maybe it's
think
just
some
too
of
similar
it-
to real life.
I think
I
so.
think some of it just depends on like, is there a reason,
Mm-hmm.
or is this just what they like doing to people? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I feel like in a contemporary setting, there's not really like many good reasons. Well, I feel like in fantasy,
Yeah.
it's kind of like more like, okay.
I mean, it has to be like consensual BDSM situations for it to be like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's your kink and that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what topic we're on, but I'm going to answer Ashley. I personally don't like student teacher romances. I don't mind if it is college, and I especially don't mind like if for instance, Christina C. Jones and Alexandria House both write where the student and the professor get together, but the student is like a grown man at like over 30 years old. Like that, I don't care about that at all. But like for me, honestly, it's all about layers. So if you're going to have an age gap, you can't also be their boss and also be their teacher. You know what I mean? You need to be one or the other. You need to be like within 4 years of each other's ages, right? Or you need to not have a power dynamic that adds on to it. So you can't have an age gap. Listen, Lil Dove totally negates all this. It doesn't matter. You can't have an age gap and the captor and like, you know, have other layers. If you're going to have some sort of taboo element, especially for me with the student teacher stuff, it's because it happens in real life so much and it's not okay when it happens in real life. I am not really expecting for anybody to capture me on the street and like make me their love slave. You know, like that's
Knock on wood.
Like, first of all, it's not the same thing as trafficking, right? It's not the same thing at all. So like somebody just being obsessed with you to the point that they take you and you fall in love with them, that's highly unlikely to happen. Whereas a teacher being inappropriate with their student is far too likely to happen. So I don't like it, if that makes sense.
As I said, I 100% agree with as long as they're both adults, I have no issue with it. But anything other than that, I don't even look at it. And
I never like, even if it's college, I don't like for her to be like 18 and he's like 30, because there's like two different levels of power imbalance that I think then just make it icky.
I don't know, given given the fact that I'm a teacher, it's weird, like ethically. No, thank you.
I feel like it's not really a great sign if you're okay with it in real life, you know?
I mean, I don't think anyone's okay with most of what happens in dark romances in real life anyways, but
except that there are people
I think it would be
real life
interesting to meet someone who's a teacher that does like student teacher romances. I would be like, oh, that's interesting. Because like I don't love reading office romances always, from like having worked in an office situation, and like I don't know, sometimes it can just be weird.
I agree. Most office romances are not that appropriate in a real workplace.
I mean, it can work. Like I like Nikki Sloan's Three Little Mistakes, whatever the first one of that series was. I liked it. It's workplace rules. Yeah, rules. I think.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was really good, but like it didn't overly focus on the office part. I felt like so that worked.
Right.
Personally, I used to not mind if in a teacher-student romance when the girl was underage, because I started reading them in high school. I was like, oh, this would be fun, because I had like teacher crushes, whatever.
Right.
But now, personally, I'm starting to feel like teacher-student romances aren't for me. I'm finding myself not to enjoy them just because I think it's kind of creepy. Like recently, what was that? Oh, you guys read Deja and Nicole. You guys read what is that?
What did you read?
For the book club.
Which one? We read
Voyager? Not
The
Voyager.
teacher-
Voyager.
Voyeur.
Voyager. Oh,
I was like, Voyager? What?
Voyager.
No, yeah, like I could not stand that book.
Okay.
I think it's creepy. Like I don't know. Like recently, I haven't been enjoying teacher-student romances, so. But I used to be eating them up.
Yeah, I don't mind student teacher romances as long as everyone's over 18. I'm fine. I don't really mind. Also, what caveat to don't make the other person bleed, what I said before. Obviously, blood play in any kind of safe BDSM scene I like. And then also we can just all agree that vampire romances are great. Like, yes, bite me.
Yeah.
Right. It's not
But
the
what I
blood
mean-
itself. It's
Right.
the inflicting pain.
Inflicting pain.
To that point. Yeah.
So that is like, yes, I like that. There's just one romance, and it's a romance. It ends in a happily ever after that I'm just thinking of. Like, literally, the hero shoots the heroine in the back with an arrow. Like, I'm like, I don't know
that
on
one.
purpose. On purpose. He was
After they already
she was
like each other?
literally they didn't like each other at this point. She was literally running away, and he was like, no, shot her in the back with an arrow. And I'm like, how do you come back from that? That's what I don't.
See,
with
for
the
me,
not
I
making the other
do
person
think
bleed.
dark content like that can work if they are not in any way in a relationship at the point that
But they
happens.
eventually get into
Right.
a
So,
relationship.
he would
Like,
treat
how?
his enemy like that, but he would never treat his woman like that. And the fact that his enemy becomes his woman is different than him doing it to his woman. Does that make sense? Even though it all
I totally agree.
happened to her.
Yeah, it does. That makes sense, Heather.
It does. But me personally, if you're shooting me in the back, that's a hard no for me.
Yeah.
I'm still mad, actually.
I would literally, even if we did get together, I would hang it over your head for the rest of our lives together. I would use that to get everything I wanted. You know, it's just like, remember that one time you actually
I would too.
shot me in the
Nicole.
back?
Was that like the last line of the book where like, remember when you shot me in the back? You are never gonna let that die, are you? Like,
Yeah, because I nearly did. I nearly died. So I'm not gonna let it go. No.
I'm with you, Nicole. I feel the same way.
That's what I mean, not to make the other person bleed.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I think that most of my stuff is just like I want my main character to be emotionally okay. Like I don't like being like this, but I'm an empathetic person. Is that even how you say that? Probably not. Doesn't matter. But point is, like, you know, Bertha Guster from the show Psych, and he's like a sympathetic crier. Like, that is me, okay? You're in pain in front of me. I'm in pain with you. I'm emotionally distraught over here, okay?
Heather doesn't like stressful books.
I don't like it because it will affect me for days. Like, I will be like, sometimes I'll just have to like tell my husband, like, look, I'm in a mood. And it's because of my book. I don't tell him it's because of my book because I don't want to hear it. But like I'm in a mood, I'm like, look, it has nothing to do with you. You did not make me mad. I'm not okay right now. So you're just gonna have to give me grace because the hero in the stupid book is like made her sad. And right now I'm just angry at men and like you're here and I know you literally did nothing, but I'm not okay over here. So like don't take me off right now.
Wait, you're a Pisces, right?
Shut up. Yes.
Like Pisces are just known empaths, you know? Like I'm an empath too. I'm a Pisces rising, Pisces moon, and I'm like that as well. So, but I still read them. because I like to cry and be upset, but I do feel like other people's stuff so
like that.
intensely.
I think the thing is too, like I cry easily. Like I'm not gonna cry because like you said I looked ugly today. I don't know. Like I don't cry. Like it's not like that. But like if they're writing an emotional scene, I'm there with them. I am feeling the things and I am for sure tearing up. Like either way. So for me, especially again, for me, a lot of it does matter. How long in the book is this happening? Okay, did he like I read one book recently. In fact, it was in my Omegaverse video, the Endora sector or whatever. Like he messes up. Like he breaks her emotionally. And I was just like, oh man, this is not good. I don't like this. No. But then like once he realizes what he did, that like she was not okay, then he like makes up for it from that point on, because that was never his intention. He did not realize in the story, like he thought she knew what shifters were like and she didn't. So he thought she was like doing things on purpose and she wasn't. And I was just like, oh, that poor baby. Like she doesn't know what's happening and you're just being a jerk. And once he realized that, he was like, all right, like I'm going to make this up to you. Like I did not intend to do this. So for me, that can matter differently than somebody who's just like, no, like I'm going to get my way. And if me getting my way means that you have to like bend to my will and not be okay, that's fine. Like, I don't like that. I like for them to be okay emotionally pretty much the whole time. I'm not going to lie. I really like for everybody just to be okay. Well, being dark content, it's weird. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It's just a total juxtaposition of like, I cry at everything, but I like reading dark books.
I do.
My brain. I can't process.
I just like for him to treat her well. I do like, especially, this is my favorite thing in dark romance, is that for both of them, but like it does more for me if it's him, but any of the characters can be like this, where they will literally burn down the world for them. That's my favorite thing. And like, contemporary fluffy romance isn't necessarily going to give you that, or at least they're not going to give you the scene where it happens. They like go on a killing rampage because somebody hurt their girl's feelings, you know?
Right. I do love a I'll kill for you.
Yeah.
And then they do it.
Yeah.
I think there's that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to go back to something that Naima said about like the student-teacher romances, because I feel like because her and I are like younger and we started like I think I probably started reading like darker content on like Wattpad like whenever a long time ago, and like things that were more taboo, and I feel like we liked it more when we were younger, and then now as we're older it's like this isn't like romance related, but I feel like it's similar, is like when I was younger I used to love family vloggers, like obsessed. Like I used to watch them all the time, but then now I'm like family vloggers like exploit their children. Like so I feel like it's kind of like the same thing, is like you don't necessarily see things are wrong if you're younger, especially if like a student who's like 15 and you're like 15, then you're like, wow, like great. But then when you're like older, you're like, that's not great.
Yeah, thinking about that earlier.
You've gotten to live your life and see friends get attempted to be groomed probably by now too, which is always fun. I think that helps. I mean, of course, like when I was y'all's age, same thing, right? Like I would read stuff and I'd be like, yeah, this is great. And then now I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Literally.
Well, I was even thinking, like when Naima was saying that she's kind of over student teacher now, that's because for me, at least, the 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old who is having a relationship with their teacher, they're not the ones that are doing anything wrong, right? Well, you would hope that they know, hey, not a great idea. Let's tell another adult, you know, all the things. At the same time, they are not the one that's doing something wrong. So for another 15-year-old to be like, yeah, my math teacher is cute, it would be great if he thought I was cute also. That's not wrong on their part to feel that way, or to want to read something that is similar. but then it's always wrong for the adult. And the closer you get to the adult age, the more you're just like, oh, that dude was not a good dude, or he wouldn't have been doing that.
Yeah.
Kind of takes the romance out of it.
Yeah. I still like student teacher romances though. As long as it's under age, okay?
That's what I'm saying. As long as everybody's over 18, I'm fine.
Yeah, I can deal with that more. I still get, I don't know. I think the issue is like, if you've experienced like older men pursuing you. So I look young, and like in college, like I looked very young still, of course. And I literally would have guys like get mad because I was over the age of 18. Like they were so hyped. They thought I was like 16, 17.
Oh, Lord.
And then they'd be like, oh. And I'm like, the fuck?
And that is always true.
And like, it's just a weird experience.
You.
Yeah.
It's
So for
not-
me, every time I'm like, okay, but are we, you know, like, I think that it also depends on the gap. If it's like a 24-year-old and an 18-year-old, I'm fine. 22, 23, fine. But then like when you get to like late 30s, I just continue to think, at my age, in my 30s, I would not want to date an 18-year-old. You can pay me to tolerate an 18-year-old.
Listen,
Are you kidding me?
We fully love Naima and Deja, who are.
I love y'all, but hell no.
But at the same time, we're not in a relationship with you. Like,
It's very
you think
different.
about this because, okay, there are, which they are, like I've known them since they were little kids, right? But sometimes I think about this because there's a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old guy there that I'm close to, right? I've been babysitting them, all sorts of stuff like that. And I love them, but they're so immature. It's fine. It's okay, right? But sometimes I'm just like, really? Like the guy is my age and the girl is his age and he finds her fascinating because like it's a difference in age that
They just like learning all the new lingo.
right? It doesn't matter how mature you are at 18, you're going to be more mature at 30, even though you might be more mature than some 30-year-olds, even though you're only 18, right? But wherever you're at, you're going to continue to mature throughout life. So for me, I'm just like, I just can't imagine finding that fascinating or wanting to deal with that every day. Like, every day. That's what we're going through. And I know men tend to be dumber, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's the harder part, I guess, too. I feel like boys that age are no go.
That is the thing, too. I do agree with you. Like, if I were 18, I would for sure want an older man because the 19-year-old guys are idiots. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm looking at them, I'm like, I love you. I do. You're my little bud, but you're dumb and you're making me
dumb as shit.
Yeah, like, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so bad. They're so bad.
What really makes me roll my eyes, especially with age gap student teacher, is that the rationalization of the teacher saying like, oh, she's an old soul or she's mature for her age. I'm like, ugh.
Well, what do you think? Because I always think
Justifying
with
her.
younger,
Exactly, justification.
with younger woman, it makes sense because it makes sense to want somebody who's more mature and not being an idiot. But for the guy, I'm always like, is it physical? Like, is it just physical? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always find that a hard sell, if that makes sense. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I know why you like the 18-year-old, you know?
We know. You're not fooling anybody.
So, I am glad that we got on this because I'm so happy that Naima and Deja were available because I know you guys both read dark romance and other dark content, and I know you're both younger. And one of the big battle cries against dark romance is you're corrupting the youth. They won't know what to look for in a healthy relationship. They're going to end up with an abuser if they read these books. And I personally don't know anybody who like had a healthy mental state and then read dark romance and was like, I'm gonna go find a sociopath and like let them play mind games with me.
Listen, y'all just go get sugar daddies. It'll be fine.
you know.
I try.
Naima's like, I'm trying.
I mean, I'm trying.
Listen, I messed up. Okay, don't make my mistake.
Oh my god! Someone DM'd me today, being like, "Hey, can I be your sugar daddy?" And I was like, "I'm good."
You
Like,
gotta
literally on
use
Snapchat.
Izzy's comeback. Izzy has a standard message that she sends to people.
Yes. Izzy, share with the class so we can all appreciate.
Any man that messages me on Instagram, I ask him if I can peg him. My partner fully approves of this message. He thinks it's hilarious. He's like, that's the funniest shit ever. So every guy that like propositions me on Instagram and I go, yeah, hi, how are you? They're like, oh, how are you? I was like, that's great. Do you like pegging?
Okay,
And
but
they either vanish or they engage.
yeah, but the thing is, I've also had people message me asking to peg them, like specifically. No,
Wow,
like,
I don't get those. I
like,
just get weird old
multiple
men.
times. Like, it's probably been at least 10.
What content
Okay,
are you putting out there that they're
I
like,
don't
All right,
know.
Deja, I've got your
My
response.
face.
I've got your response. You're
Okay.
gonna respond with only if it's with the Great American Challenge. And you can
am I
Google that
Googling
later.
this? 'Cause I don't feel like I'm Googling this.
I don't want to know.
It's huge.
What?
Now you did you Google it?
People or what?
Deja's like, let me.
I'm googling it now. I need to know.
You gotta put what it is at the end.
What is it? Great American Engagement?
The Great American Challenge.
Oh,
It's it's over 10 inches.
I really don't know.
The Great American Challenge. Only if I can do it with that. That's what you responded. And they will run in the other direction and leave you. They will never ask that question to someone again.
I'm looking at a picture of it right now. I just looked it up on Urban Dictionary, but there was no picture, and I was like, I have to know.
Oh yeah.
There was no okay. Why was that on Google? I didn't need to see that.
I said you didn't have to look it up. You just have to say it. And they're like, what's that? You like Google
I didn't
it.
expect someone's. I just didn't expect to see it in action. Like I didn't. Like I just didn't expect it.
Deja, you have safe search off.
What?
Is safe search off? Like you're gonna
Probably.
see it if safe search is off.
Searching
For
for the
real.
big- Okay, sometimes I just want to know, but like that was not the moment. That was not the moment that I wanted to
Say
know.
the image search.
Oh, wow. I put Great American Challenge pegging.
No.
On the topic about how the battle cry is dark
I
romance.
was like, what are they talking about? I see like a regular beer can. I'm like, what are they talking about? I was
Yes,
like,
because
let me-
apparently it's also like a game. Like people eat pizza and like drink beer and like smoke marijuana and they like wait to throw up. Apparently it's like a game or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I was like, what is she talking about? And I was like, okay, here we
No,
go.
no. You've got to add on the item that you would use to peg with.
Yes.
That's just not even nice. I don't know why anybody would.
That's just
Never mind, not yucking your yum or whatever. But
Look, it's fine if it's your yum. I don't care. But I'm saying if someone's asking you to peg them, that's what you offer them.
Yeah.
That's what you
Because they're
offer.
gonna
This
say
is the
no.
starting
is
point.
that for commercial sale? Like where does one buy that? Like
Where does it pay?
A shop off the interstate
I feel like
that has 2 lions on the billboard, probably. Or an apple.
So just send them a picture of that and just say, this is the starting point. We can only go up from here.
yeah.
All y'all are missing, if you're not searching, is it's giant. It's very big.
Giant. It's like,
Also,
It is honestly probably the size of an Ice Planet Barbarian.
have you seen the movie Anaconda? That's what everything is about.
oh lordy.
but I start to use the phrase like I don't want to yuck someone's yum around all my friends and they hate it so much. Like all of them hate it. I don't know, something about the phrase. They're like, Deja, not this phrase again.
Not this phrase again.
They're like, it just doesn't sound right. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum.
I love those. I searched incognito mode so I don't mess up my Amazon.
You know what?
I'm
My Amazon
sorry.
messed up.
It's gonna Facebook recommend that to me.
I feel like I just
So-
ruined y'all.
So it's not dark romance that corrupts the youth, it's Izzy.
It's Izzy. 100%. Is there ever a lie that Izzy's not out here explaining a kink to somebody and like, well,
It's great.
tell you what it is.
Education. I love it.
Very important.
Better to get it from Izzy than Google, but when Izzy tells you to Google it, then you've been led astray at that point.
Oh my god, I don't want to read the reviews on it. Maybe I do. I don't know.
Maybe
I'm
I kind of wanna.
I'm kind of intrigued.
All right, hold on.
Oh no. The
Izzy's
bottom
like,
row
okay.
is just gone.
The live has devolved.
You really have. Okay.
Listen, I just want y'all to have safe, happy, healthy sex lives. And you're good. That's all I want everyone to have.
Being used.
She's like, I also want you to know your options.
Look, I'm just telling you really great ways to make threats at men, but they're not going to realize it's a threat.
Until they do the work.
I
Yeah.
like wish, like I always see girls on TikTok, like they're like preparing to scare men and they're like practicing like barking at people. And I was like, I wish I had the audacity to just bark at somebody.
No,
But
Listen.
I'm gonna work up to it
Same.
one day. One day I'm gonna just bark at somebody. I'm gonna work up to it.
you have to build
Make
yourself.
sure you record it because I
You have
really
to,
want
like
to see it.
slowly.
Somebody took a picture of this thing next to Dr. Pepper cans. What?
How many Dr. Pepper cans?
3.
3.
3 high.
Yeah, that's a pass for me, actually.
The picture I saw is someone holding it. It was literally like half their body.
Yeah.
My word.
I just use my scary dog privileges of my partner to avoid people.
Someone said
That trend happened and I said, oh, that's why people leave me alone. That's
someone
why.
said we're not scared by barking.
Bullshit. If we're at a fucking train station and you talk to me and I start barking at you, you're gonna be like, the fuck? And you're gonna walk
You
away.
may not be scared, but you'd be weirded out. You would not be interested no more. You'd be like, there's something not okay.
No, I would look the other way. If somebody worked at me.
I feel like if you burst out laughing as soon as you do it, it's not going to be as intimidating.
I couldn't do it with a straight face. That's a problem.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Back on track, shall we?
Yeah.
Naima and Deja specifically, but everybody else can chime in too.
Because we're not.
How do
young
you
enough.
feel about reading the dark content, let's say before turning 18? Do you feel like it in any way impacted your real life preferences, or do you feel like fiction is different from real life and it didn't actually affect me at all?
Okay, I'm gonna expose myself here. Okay, well, okay. Let's start off.
You
Okay, so-
do what you're comfortable with. You don't have to say more than you want.
Okay, so with people reading dark romances under the age of 18, I obviously started reading before the age of 18. I really just feel like it depends. I know some people with such a strong personality. I feel like a lot of people, I can't explain it. Okay, so basically, I'm super impressionable, and I know tons of people are also super impressionable. So I really just think that it depends. I feel like it's really just an conversation that you should have like with yourself. I don't know. I feel like if you're super impressionable, it's probably not the best thing to do because okay, I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I can't explain. I can't.
Are you trying to say that, like, if you're someone who's going to read it and think that needs to be your relationship or your life, that you maybe shouldn't read it?
I mean, yes, I feel like that's like a given though. Like, I don't know, like for me personally, like I know I don't want this. Like, I know this and that, but low key, like things have started. Like, I don't know how to. Okay, so for example, I'm on a dating app and I kind of switched it over the age a little bit higher just because I'm like, well, I don't know, like I read these books, whatever. So I personally am super, super impressionable. other people I know, like my friends that are my age, they're super strong-willed, like, girl, like, do not, like, you're weird, this and this. So I feel like if they were reading a dark romance, they would be fine with it. So I really just think it depends on someone's personality, because I don't know, if you struggle with your identity a lot and struggle with like who you are and what you should be doing, I feel like it's bad stuff could come from it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Asia?
I also think like parents. Is that like a bold thing to say? Okay, well, my parents, I can't even talk because my parents didn't control, like, they did not watch nothing that I did at all.
Same.
And I'm fine. I'm here. Okay. But like, I feel like parents should be in charge of controlling their children's content. And even if they're okay with them reading, I feel like they should have a conversation with them, specifically if they're reading romance, to be like, hey, this is fiction. This is what should, like you can't let people walk all over you, and like you need to find what's right for you, and it's not necessarily what's going to be in this, because it's not real. Like, I feel like it's a really big thing of like knowing what's fiction and what's real. I feel like that it less impressionable than like people who understand for real, like fiction versus fact. I don't know, because like when I was younger, I feel like I was like, okay, fiction, real. But like now, obviously, I don't know that, and I feel like if I read it then I would be very confused. And like what like was okay in my head, but like I feel like it's just really like not even necessarily parents to themselves, but I feel like in schools they don't even talk about it. Like they barely give sex ed, let alone talking about like what's healthy and okay in a relationship.
Right.
They never are like, okay, abuse, wrong. They never even say that ever. So like it's just, I feel like it's like on the whole system to like help younger people understand that just because you enjoy something doesn't mean that it's okay in real life. And like the system and parents don't do that. So like I feel like it's less about like what they read, and it should be more on, I feel like everybody else is just lazy and like want to be like, oh, shouldn't exist because I'm lazy and I don't want to help these younger people.
Yeah, I agree. And like B said, self-awareness is so key. Like if you know that you're impressionable, if you know that like this isn't, like you could potentially, your mind could start changing, I think that's super important. And I wish like I didn't start reading dark romance. I'm not like I'm not like, I'm fine, you know? But like, I don't know. Sometimes I wish that like I didn't get into dark romances so young. And yeah, I just think self-awareness is a really big thing.
Yeah. And I agree with that, but like also, like I remember, I feel like before like 16, maybe even like 16 and a half, I know it's specific, I was not self-aware. It literally feels like a fever dream. Like my brain was not my brain. I don't know who she was, but that was not me. Yeah. Like now I'm so much more self-aware about like my boundaries and just myself in general. But like when I was 16, I didn't know at all. Like I was like, okay.
Do you think so I read fan fiction. I didn't read romance necessarily when I was a teen. I read a lot of fan fiction though. It was like AO3 and fanfiction.net days. Do you think that romance, and Nicole, you said this, I consider this, like, did you find that romance gave you unrealistic expectations towards sex, whether or not you've had it or any of that, like just in general, like the idea of what it would be to have sex at all? Because like I have a friend who's, her kid's older now, but like at 13, she wanted to read romance. Like that was a conversation she had. Like, look, when you do eventually have sex, it's not going to be necessarily like it is in a book, if that makes sense. You know, it's not going to be a fireworks or whatever that, you know, euphemisms we read in a book necessarily. So I'm just curious.
I think it has. Obviously, when I was younger, I thought that, okay, even before I started reading romance books, I would watch Degrassi, and like sex was always a conversation and whatever was always like a conversation. And so I feel like that all of that combined, it did like change my expectation of sex. I really used to think that it was something that it's not. And yeah, so I definitely think it does, but I feel like that does go along with, I don't know, I just really feel like it's just a maturity thing. And just knowing who you are, knowing like what's real and who's around you and like who's there to help you, I guess. And not just getting so sucked into these things like, oh my gosh, my life's gonna go happen like this and this and this. So yeah, I did. Now I know. Anyways,
So I wonder about that because I feel like I mean I didn't read this when I was young. I was reading very weird fan fiction. So
I feel like it did to some extent, but also for me, like it made it like not that it has to be meaningful for people, like they can do whatever they want, but for me, it's like something that I want to be meaningful, like with people that I care about and they care about me.
Yeah.
Like I feel like romance more did that to me because my generation is kind of, well, me and Naima's generation is kind of like flippant about it. Like it's fine. Like they do what they want to do, but like that's also like it's not like that for everybody. And like I feel like it did, but then also it didn't. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Go
It's
ahead,
not,
Naima.
like, sorry. I agree with that because it's definitely like something that like special, like exactly what Deja said. I can't talk right now.
Because I know, like, for me, I'm a very, like, emotionally attached person. Like,
Same.
when I get attached, like, I'm, like, suction cupped. Like, like, I'm suction cupped. So, like, for me, I know that, like, I can't separate sexual things from, like, romantic things. And I just know that for me. And I think, like, romance kind of helped. Maybe it even created that. I don't know. But, like, I just kind of realized from reading romance, that's how it is for me and, like, interacting with other people. But that if people don't want to do that, that's fine. But, like, I know that is how it is for me. And, like, because of romance, I don't let people, like, take advantage of that. Like, I don't let people, like, convince me of something that I don't want to do.
Yeah. Agreed.
I feel like if I take a step back from just romance and talk about and go to reading in general, because I spent a lot of time in my teens reading high fantasy or action books with lots of violence and things like that. I didn't grow up to become a violent person. And I think part of it comes down to how we teach kids to critically read and how to actually separate fiction from fact. And I think, again, it comes down to maturity and how impressionable you are, but also can you think past that when you're reading content as well? And that's something that, depending on where you are and how you're taught to read as well, can be affected.
I agree.
Yeah. And I feel like they don't really do that in school. I don't know. I feel like they definitely should. We just read boring stuff in school.
And I think that's the trouble is that you'd like to think there would be consistency in education, and there's not necessarily. We aim for it, but depending on particularly the teacher's level of understanding of books as well and reading, also has a really big impact.
Yeah, like an example of this is like I had a teacher last semester. If you watch any of my live shows, you know I despised her. Literally, she's so crusty. Anyways, besides the fact that she dressed up as a Native American for Halloween, besides that fact, she like didn't like things in books. Like, okay, so we read the Turn of the Screw, okay? And in the Turn of the Screw, there's kind of like this suggestion that this older man was grooming a child. And like it's suggested, and like if you look it up on the internet, people are like, that's what it was. But she was like, oh, absolutely not. Back in the 1800s, they would never write about that. Like,
this is the teacher you complained about before.
I remember this teacher. Yeah.
I remember this one.
What I complain about.
Which other teacher is there? It's just this one. Yes.
We have been grooming children since there were children.
Literally.
But she's like, they would never write about it. And I was like, but why wouldn't they? Like, it wasn't like super like in your face, like grooming right there, but like you could kind of gather that. So like the fact that she just was like, nope, that wasn't it. They just had a nice relationship, kind of like teaches that children like, oh, these actions are okay. When like in reality, they're a little questionable. So like the kids in my class now could be like, oh,
Right.
that's okay. But like,
Yeah.
it's just, again, it's
Fireworks.
actions were a little questionable, and that could have been a topic of discussion. But instead, she decided to be, I don't know what word I want to use here.
Well, right. It's like
Terrible.
if you are set like reading this book and you're like, okay, this is questionable behavior, and then the teacher like teaching the class is saying, oh no, like they would never write about that. This is perfectly acceptable. And some other person who may not be, or is more impressionable, they can read that and be like, oh yeah, this is totally
Yeah,
okay. Like
like, my
that's kind of
whole group-
dangerous.
My whole group, there was like, I think there was 5 of us. We all read the chapter individually and we were having a discussion, and we all came to the same conclusion of that it was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, nope. And I was like, excuse me? Are you
Right.
sure? Did you get an education? I'm confused. I was like, she also taught college. And then she was teaching high school seniors who were supposed to be taking a second, like sophomore level English course.
Right.
In a lot of ways, I suppose that's why the discussions that are had on BookTube are really important, because it gives people an opportunity to talk things through, like in this discussion, so that you can figure out, okay, well, where are my lines? What do I like? How can I talk something through? How can I identify if something's problematic, or if it's just something that's questionable to me because of my experiences?
Yeah. And I think that's something like that books give that a lot of other things don't. Like, I feel like because I read and because I have discussions about it, I'm able to like figure out my own lines and my own boundaries and like more about myself and just like be more self-aware. Well, I feel like other like younger people who don't read as much, they don't get the same thing.
Right. Well, like your age isn't your most defining thing.
Yeah.
2 different people who are the same age have wildly different experiences and will interpret or react to something in opposite ways that affect the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah.
So that is, and plus like the teacher, you cannot have any large group of people and have all of those people be good people who should be there and doing, like it's like, no offense to all of you people with glasses, but you can't say that everybody with glasses is smart. Like that's the stereotype, right? Like, oh, the nerd has glasses. Having glasses doesn't make you a nerd or not a nerd. Like it's not a thing. It's not a thing.
But when you interview and you wear glasses, they think you're smarter.
But everybody who is like noticeably smart, right? You're like, they're just talking like you have no idea what they're saying because they're over your head and they're wearing glasses. They confirm in your mind, oh, people with glasses are smart, it's things like that. But any group,
Confirmation bias.
all the people with glasses, they're dumb, they're athletic, they're smart, any large group, you have all the things.
No, we are all evil masterminds with our glasses. Thank you very much.
We just use them to hide behind.
Yeah.
Another thing though is like I had another teacher in my sophomore year of high school and we read The Kite Runner. And if you guys read that, you know that there's like triggering sexual assault on page. And like he let us know beforehand that it was going to be triggering, but then we were able to have discussions about it. And like the kids who didn't want to read it didn't have to read that chapter. They didn't have to, but like it brought up good discussions of like what's okay and what's not okay. And like that's what I appreciate when a teacher does something like that, rather than be like, that's not what it really was. Because he was like, there's going to be triggering content. Like, if you don't want to read it, you don't have to. But he didn't tell us what it was going to be. So, like, afterwards, we were all like, was that what we thought it was? Like, were we just wrong? And he was like, no. Like, that's just how it was. And, like, it really, I think that we had some really good discussions from that. We read a good amount of triggering stuff in that class. But I felt like it brought up really good discussions. And we all grew from that class. Like that was my favorite English class that I've ever had, versus one where we just read Return of the Screw and she was like ghosts.
Safe.
Well, like even okay, so I grew up incredibly conservative. Like my family, my dad is a pastor. My family is very religiously conservative, and everything that I read was heavily censored. Like my mother would, if there was like anything questionable, she would, first of all, we probably weren't allowed to read the book, but if we were allowed to read the book and there's something questionable, she would like paper clip the pages together and you just have to skip that page. And I know like one of them, did you guys ever read Julie of the Wolves or Julie and the Wolves or something like that?
Mm.
There's kind of a sexual assault, except she gets away, right? So he's attempting, she gets away, and she runs and she lives with the wolves is the story. Mm-hmm. But so that scene was like paper clipped, even though like nothing happened. So for me, you know, I didn't grow up reading anything dark or consuming anything dark because my parents were very strict about it. And like I was doing my best to sneak listening to Taylor Swift. I wasn't sneaking dark content. Like that wasn't what I was reading. So for me, I was introduced to all of it basically. I mean, I knew bad things happen, right? So you see news stories, you see things like this. Like it doesn't matter how much your family is censored, unless you're completely off the grid and you have never seen another person except your family, you're aware that things happen, even if your parents are trying to censor that particular content for you, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, all my dark content basically was as an adult, which honestly I think is not a bad thing for me because all of the traumatic things that I've seen like growing up, like they live in my mind. Like even if it's just a tiny clip on a show, like they affect me. And I think it is because like I'm easily emotionally, I feel bad for you. I feel what you're feeling, you know? But so it was nothing for me. At the same time, I did like fantasy and I did like those enemies to lovers things. So I feel like I still kind of got some influence on my preferences. Now, I think that your preference for a relationship and a preference for in the bedroom are not the same thing, right? I'm just saying, like, you can be into a lot of the kinky stuff and want your partner to be nice to you outside of the bedroom, right? Like, they're not the same thing. But, like, I didn't have any of that before being of age, if you will. So, how the three of you, did you guys read anything?
I'm sorry, really fast. There are people doing fireworks, so if you can hear that, I'm very, very sorry.
That's a firework.
Fireworks.
I don't know why.
Hey, it starts. It doesn't stop where I live. Never mind. That's a lie.
Doesn't stop.
So I'll be on mute whenever it comes on.
I can go first, I guess. My consumption of anything was not monitored in any capacity in my household. So my mom thought, and I agree with this, I think the safest way to explore sex and all those things is through books, most likely, to an extent when you are younger and you're curious. So if I'd picked up romance when I was 12 or 13, she wouldn't have stopped me. She would have had maybe a discussion about it, but she never would have stopped me.
Same. I think I started reading romance at a young age, 14, 15, and they came from my mother. So I mean, we didn't really have like in-depth discussions about it, but I never really had a censoring issue in my household. My husband, on the other hand, for sure, very heavily Christian parents who would not let him read or watch certain things. So
like even a kiss was questionable, but anything more than that was like, nope.
It's to the point where it's like where we were watching, like we were all together, you know, even like we were teenagers at this point, we were dating at that point, and we were all watching like a group family movie and everything, and anything like sexual came on, like my mother-in-law would fast forward it.
Yep.
Even though it's like we're just seeing it in double time now, it's still there. Like, I don't.
2 speed.
Not my parents.
It's like reading
channel.
It's like reading an audiobook on 2 times speed. Okay, I can see it. It's fine. But yeah, it's like I was never heavily censored like that, and then
I mean, like, I couldn't watch the Titanic when it came out because my mom was like, no. But
I definitely watched the Titanic when it came out.
We saw it in the cinema.
Yeah, we did not. But yeah, but it still like wasn't. I don't know. Books were never censored ever.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But I don't know, like reading romance where it's just like I feel like in romance, not necessarily like the dark romance like that what we're talking about, just romance in general, like they have positive like sex experiences, I feel. So like even if you did, I feel like you would get kind of like an idea of like it's like a positivity thing. It's and like unless it's like the dark, where it's kind of like, dubious consent kind of thing. But I don't know. I feel like, I from romance, really what I learned is that, demand an orgasm every time, honestly. And that is your right.
You deserve 2 for every 1 they get. So.
Right?
Minimum of 2.
I come first.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rule. And I learned that from romance. Thank you.
I also think reading like books in general as like a younger person, it's kind of like, like alcohol, how they say in countries where like they drink alcohol like at the table, like with their parents, like they grow up to like not wild out as much about it. I feel like it's like the same thing.
I had that in my house, like growing up. Alcohol's whatever to me because like I can have it at the table with them. It was no big deal.
Yeah. And like one of my friends, his parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, which I don't like organized religion, but pop off. Okay. But like his parents very like they very censored everything, and like then now like he doesn't even know what he wants, and he very much wilds out about it. And like his parents, though he's literally 20, and like his parents took his phone, like he literally can't do anything, but like he like doesn't know his own boundaries and isn't self-aware like that because they didn't allow him that space to grow. And so I feel like that's kind of like the problem with censoring. And then also like censoring, like how there's always like books that could be like triggering or like have content that people don't want in it at school, and then they tell the parents like, do you want your kid to read it or not? And I feel like once you get to high school, I personally don't think that they should do that because parents may not agree with it, which is like fine, like they're whatever, but like I feel like we should, not that we should trust the school board but like I feel like if it's going to like a mass amount of children, I feel like there's a reason for it, like there's some sort of value out of it, even if it doesn't align with your values. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyways, I don't like when parents are like oppressive to children. Very much bothers me because a lot of my friends grew up in like really strict households and I didn't, and like I see how it really impacted them. So like it just, I don't know, it hits really close to me.
I mean, it always depends on the person.
Yeah.
A lot of times I will say, a lot of times children of extremely religiously conservative homes, they either are fully committed and stay in that religion their whole life and bring their kids up exactly the same, if not more strict, or they tend to just really question and be like, I don't know that this is really how we're going to interpret this. Like even like they were saying the scandalous stories in the Bible. I know like everything in the Bible. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Like of all the things that I've been taught, I know a lot of stuff about the Bible. And yeah, there's a lot of like sexual assault, and there's a lot of stories with women where it's like, and she's the moral of the story. And I'm like, all right, well, so her life was just ruined. That's what we're going with so that we could learn a lesson. Like, I don't like that. So yeah, that's not fun. But I do think, I feel like it's always up to, well, no, I shouldn't say this. I think that there's a lot of debate about whether it's up to the individual with how they react to their environment and their influences. For instance, let's say you have people who are taught alt-right values as a child, right? I was just watching this video talking about how, okay, so when do they go from the victim to somebody that you deem as having irredeemable ideology, right? Is that 14? Is that 18? Is that 24? At what point do they cease to be the victim of what they were taught and have now become the perpetuator? And I think that it just depends on the person, whether they react negatively or positively to what they have going on around them and how they grow themselves. Like, do they become a worse person or a better person?
Agreed with the environment. All right.
I will say too, something to obviously, like, you're not going to let a third grader pick up a explicit romance book necessarily,
Right.
but like there is an age at which it is appropriate, and the conversation should always be happening around consent and what that is in a non-sexual context with all children, because that's how you figure out what consent is. But like, you know, that is the other thing I think to think about when it comes to like when people pick these up is like, if the parent's having a conversation with them or they're mature enough, like it's fine. Like it can totally be completely healthy and okay. But I think also when you're like 20, 21, or if you start to act on the things you're taught from that perspective, is when it gets to be, you're no longer a victim of it.
Right.
When you join the incels, you're not a victim anymore. You've joined the terrorist group. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference, is do you act on it or are you open to learning other perspectives?
Well, and you often see that in stories, even like in the very popular example of Six of Crows, you have Matthias, who has been taught his whole life anybody with magic is evil and they deserve to die. And him having to come to the realization that everything that he believed his whole life might have been really, really wrong. And so that's always interesting to me. Okay, I wanted to, I know, and I think parents do want to shelter their children, right? None of us, nobody who is a decent person wants to put a child through emotional or physical turmoil, right? We're trying to protect. But it is interesting which way parents and adults in general can go on trying to protect the children from everything they disagree with and making sure that they get the ideas that they want them to have and teaching them to be critical about what they're seeing and hearing and decide for themselves, is this okay? Is this what I want? Do I think that it's okay to treat another person this way, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah, I'm not a parent in any, regard, but I feel like I would be more comfortable like having a discussion and teaching my kids something as opposed to censoring something and then having them learn from somewhere else.
Right. I think that's the big key there, right? Like, I'm not a parent either and never going to be, but I would much rather my nephew, my friend's kids come talk to me and ask me these questions than Google it. Or any of my friends. Like I have friends who message me and are like, "Hey, will you explain something to me?" And I'm like, "If I understand it, sure."
You just made us Google the Great American Challenge.
Exactly. So I don't have to explain why people come ask me these questions. It's fine.
In all seriousness, I am a parent, and I have always felt like the best thing that you can do, the best thing that can be there for a kid, honestly, is one, have parents that love them and are good to them. That's the best thing. But then also, I mean, if you can have this conversation with your parent, great. But by and large, you're probably not going to be comfortable with it. So it is great to have an aunt or just another adult that you can ask. And I'm all for talking with your friends, but ultimately your friends are the same age as you. they're within the realm of your experience. That's why you're friends, right? So there's probably not a huge gap in maturity where this person and this person are best friends and this one acts like they're 10 years older than the other one. I think that is the most helpful thing, is to have somebody other than your parent even that you can ask. And I think that in real life, dangerous situations, a lot of times that can be your saving grace, but also just with learning, having an adult that's not your parent, that you can ask them without them being like, well, how do you hear that? Why do you hear that? You shouldn't be asking me that. That's the most helpful thing.
You can send me your children, Nicole. I will trap them in the car and give them the talk. And then we'll get ice cream after. It's fine.
I just commented that. I was like, my kids are definitely going to go to Auntie Bree and Auntie Izzy.
Happily. I have a friend who said if I ever had kids that I can ship them out to her. She'll trap them in the minivan. They'll go get lunch or whatever, and she'll have the whole talk. Everything.
For real, though. And I can tell you, too, because my household was definitely abstinence until marriage is the only okay thing, right? That's what my religion teaches.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna be real honest with you. 2 virgins who don't know what they're doing.
That's not a fun time.
We don't make fireworks. It's not all that exciting.
That's not a fun time. That's about 20 seconds. About 20 seconds.
I came my first time. I don't know what you guys are doing, but
okay, listen.
You were reading romance novels, that's why.
Let's say that you know the biology, and that's it. You don't know anything about what you like, what you don't like, how to get to what you like.
Listen, I always say you got to try it before you buy it. You don't get married without trying it. That is a bad idea.
Okay, my mom,
What
right?
if it doesn't work?
My mom is like a pretty like Christian woman. But even with my half sister, she got married and they were both like virgins, and she was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure?" My mom literally says, "Try before you buy," and I was like, "Okay."
My mother does too, and I stand by it. I stand by it.
I mean,
try before you buy it.
Listen. Okay, so with my husband, right? We started dating when I was 18. We got engaged when I was 19, and we got married when I was 20. And I had baby boy at 21.
That's a lot.
I don't necessarily recommend it. It was okay for me. It turned out okay, right? Do I think it's going to turn out okay for the majority of people? No, I don't.
I mean, my mom got married when she was 19, and they're still together, and it's been
right.
A long time.
Because my
40 years almost
husband is not the same as the 22-year-old that I married.
Yeah.
We've grown together rather than growing apart, and that's why it's worked.
I mean, I got married at 21. Same thing. Like, we've been married for 10 plus years now. Like, we've been together for over 10 years. We've grown together, not apart. And that's
right.
That's not always the case.
It's not that it can never work. It's just like, am I like, no, I for sure think my kids should definitely do exactly what I did. No, I don't. And I'm fine if they don't, truthfully.
My dad got married.
Again, I'm happy. Like, it did work out for me. But of course, I have a ton of friends who grew up in the same religion, who did the same path, who are either separated or miserable. Right.
Yeah. My dad got married at 19 and then he got divorced.
Yep.
And that's usually what happens.
And then he got married at 20 something and then got divorced again. And then he married my mom.
Yep. There you go.
That's like even in
he didn't try it before he bought it. He bought it enough.
He bought it and didn't like it. He said, return.
Where's the receipt? He's looking everywhere.
My
dad
dad
actually take it back. He
no deposit. You can't return her. You didn't give us deposit. You cannot return her. So
no, my dad actually did return it because in the first marriage he didn't get divorced. They got an annulment. That's like the real return right there.
That is. He
didn't even want to try it. Didn't even want to try. I brought it home, and you know what?
No, thank you.
He said unopened box. Take
it back.
Tori, y'all got together when you were in like high school. You're like the one weirdo
Well, and that's the
high
thing.
school
I was
couple.
gonna say in books, sometimes people
You
are
too,
like,
Nicole.
weirdo.
Y'all are weirdos. Y'all are
sometimes
weirdos.
people are like, it's
Oh,
so
weird.
unrealistic for two 18-year-olds to find love. And it's like, no, it's not. It's
I
not
hope
the
not.
majority of us.
It is not unrealistic. I feel like teenagers.
No, not love. Like the love that lasts a lifetime. Like you meet them at 18
Yeah.
and you're together until you're 78. That's not the majority, but it's not unrealistic. Do I want every single romance that I read for the main character to be 18 and she found her happily ever after? No. But am I like, oh, she's 18? No, like sometimes that works.
I mean, it depends. It just depends on how it's written with that one for me, on if I can believe it. I usually read those as more like happy for now endings, which is totally fine for me. Like I'm cool with those. Versus like them getting married the next year when she's 19 and living together forever.
Yeah.
If you're just like
sometimes I
dating.
wonder, after I finish a book and the characters or they're really young, like I don't know, high school, whatever. I'm like, are they still together? Like, I wonder what's going on. I think about it to myself.
I like when like both characters are 18 or 19 or whatever, and then you get an epilogue that's like 6 years in the future.
Mhm.
And, like, they just
are
got
cute.
married or they just had a baby or something like that. Where it's like, okay, so they didn't do that at 18, but they have been together since 18, and at 26, it's still going great. I like those types of epilogues.
Yeah.
But another thing that I feel like that books do that I think was really good for me is that I feel like a lot of people like kind of minimize teenagers' feelings. And
100%.
but I feel like books a lot of times with teenagers validate those feelings, and it's really cathartic because like people are like, oh, like teenagers can't fall in love, point blank period. And I'm not saying that they will, but like that doesn't mean that they don't feel strong emotions. And like a lot of people are like, you can't feel that, like that's not real, it's in your head. Like another thing that's kind of similar that like we discussed in like one of the clubs I was in is like how people minimize like teenagers' issues because they're not like somebody starving in Africa or like they don't have water, which like is terrible that happens. But like losing a friend is also, it can be really hard. And like people are like, it's not that difficult, but like it can be. And I feel like books kind of like explore that more and like their emotions that teenagers go through. So I feel like it could be really helpful.
I feel this on a deep level, the whole like invalidating teenager feelings / teens in general, probably because I spent all of my 20s being mistaken as a fucking teenager and going places and people being like, and I'm like, no, I'm buying this. I am an adult. Fuck off. But I think what Tori said too, I think love at 17, at 16 is very different than love when you're in your 30s now. And even from when I was in my 20s and like what my marriage is now versus what it was then. And the sort of like, there's a difference in the comfort with someone, I guess, after you're together a long time. But yeah, I still think that those feelings are so strong when you're younger, right? Like it's such a heavy weight. It is though. Like when you get older, you're gonna be like, wow, I felt things a lot harder when I was like 18.
They're so strong for what reason? I'm like, why?
Your fucking hormones are out of control. I'm sorry. It's terrible. I feel for you, okay? But
I would not go back to being a teenager for
hell no. Hell no.
anything.
Hell no.
Now I look back.
You were saying with the infantilizing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's the pronunciation for us. Of teenagers. Do I think that teenagers should never read dark romance? Obviously not. Do I think that it's a good idea for a 13-year-old to pick up a dark romance as the first romance they've ever read? No, of course they don't. But the idea, again, that because you're 17, reading this book is going to ruin your life because you're not going to know any better is a bit ridiculous, in my opinion.
Not great.
Because you're smart. You can. It's not that
we discredit teenagers' abilities to process things because we want to just say, well, you're just a big ball of emotions, which yes, but you also can still process things. I made tons of choices when I was 16. 17 and 18, and some of them are good choices, some of them are bad choices, but that's what you're supposed to do when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
Fuck it up while you can.
Right.
And I
To
feel
be an
like,
adult.
like I always describe myself like I don't know how I'm like I think I'm really smart, but like I also don't know how I can be so dumb at the same time. Like
We're all
it's
like that.
yes, but I feel like my like Gen Z is very much like that. Like we do dumb things, but I feel like we're literally like good intellectuals out here. Like with our advocating for issues and stuff, I feel like we actually like are pretty like critical of things. And I'm not saying that other generations weren't like that. I just don't. I wasn't there. I don't know.
But that could be a generational maturity thing. Like in 10 years, when you've had 10 more years, just because decisions were made at this point doesn't mean that you're going to be still making those same mistakes or whatever in 10 years' time. We all grow from the things that we do as teenagers, because teenagers do dumb things all the time.
As millennials, we've been fighting a long time, and we are just tired.
Yeah.
That's like the all of millennials. Just tired.
Millennials have ruined
We are,
everything.
because we're just tired. But Gen X fought a lot and hard.
Yeah.
But they're also tired, because it just changes so much as you age. And you'll see it in like 5 more years. You're like, shit, I'm tired. I know they were
I'm
talking
tired
about.
now.
Just wait.
No, yeah, I've kind of given up at this point as well.
A lot of us, we're just like, okay, we're done.
Okay, I just on TikTok, whatever, scroll. I don't even watch the full.
I think that we also, like the millennial generation to an extent, we've learned how to protect our peace a little more, that when we know that we can't fight every battle. Whereas a lot of Gen Z love y'all to
We
death.
don't know that.
Y'all do
We
not
be
stop.
fighting everything.
every single.
And then you're like yelling at millennials because like we don't fight, and we're all like, y'all just
No, literally.
Battle.
we gotta pick battles, y'all. We gotta pick up. Like we can't fight everything for everyone.
We pick something, we try and do it well, but we can't do everything.
Sometimes my boss at work is like, Deja, are you fighting with the customers? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just saying that, because they'll be like, I said I wanted almond milk, and I was like, you did it. And they're like, but I did. You just couldn't hit me with the mask. And I was like, but are you sure? And then she's like, yeah, I know exactly what I said, ma'am. And I was like, you're wrong, but okay.
You're wrong, but okay.
Yeah. Don't come a point where you're like, I'm done. I'm not gonna fight all these battles.
I'm already at that
Sometimes I'm
point,
done.
to be honest. Some days I'll be like, okay, and then like today I'm tired.
Yeah, today I had a rough day, and I was on
That's
the phone with
exactly
my-
Brie.
I was on the phone with my dad, and I was like, oh my God, this lady almost hit me with her car. And he was like, and I was like, you know what? Honestly, like if she would have done it, I wouldn't have been mad. Just take me out at this point. Like, it's fine. Like, that's so terrible. But like, I was like so done. I was like, you know what?
Look, in college we used to joke, hit me with your car, you'll pay my tuition. It's fine.
Period. I'm like,
6
Sue.
years old when the
Some money.
time were like 6 years old or something.
I was not old enough for this one.
I was
to
not
care.
old. First of all, my parents totally voted for him, and secondly, I was not old enough to panic. So
Not old enough to.
I was not old enough to panic.
well,
I think we panicked over here.
You're good, Steph. You're like, I'm in Australia.
Not in my
Whatever.
country. Yikes.
But we still panicked.
listen, America.
Okay, but Bree, the thing is, when I know that they said it, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry, I forgot. But then I know for a fact that some of these people don't be saying the correct thing. And then I'm like, how is that my fault? Like, excuse me? Like, when I know they say it, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'll fix it, whatever, like, I'll give it to you. But then I know for a fact some of these people be lying through their teeth. And it makes me upset.
And I'm over here like, I won't even question it. Give me whatever the fuck you made. I'll drink it and I'll pretend I'm happy. Like, I'm too anxious for this.
This one kid, I was like, he was like, I want a caramel cappuccino. And I was like, you want a cappuccino, not a frap. You want a cappuccino. And he was like, yes, a cappuccino. And he saw me grab the hot cup and everything and write it on there. And then my boss went to make it and she was like, is this what you want? And he was like, no, I want a frappuccino. And I was like, excuse me? I literally asked you. That makes me so mad. For what reason? For what? I
would have just taken it and drank it and said,
That's
yep,
the way I
that's
am.
what I ordered.
It's like, yes, that's exactly what I ordered.
I use my scary dog partner for these things. Okay, I don't do these things.
it really just has me frustrated because I'm like, these people really.
It doesn't make me miss my days of customer service.
No.
This one lady also complained about me, and I was like, for what reason? She said I threw her food at her and I just put it on the counter because I didn't want to touch her crusty, dusty hands. Okay. Anyways, not complaining.
Any kind of customer service. I get to the point where like I literally had a patient yell at me today because I told him like, yeah, we still require masks in a medical office because you're in a medical office. And he was like yelling at me and arguing with me. So I just sit in silence with like the arched eyebrow and just
You
sit
should just
there.
put an audiobook in, just be like, take a earbud and just be like, that's what I would do. I'd be petty like that. I'm not
I'm
good.
just telling everyone that if they yell at me for wearing a mask, that I'm too ugly to be seen without it. So it's fine.
And he was literally like, why are you just sitting
They
there? And I
can't
was like,
challenge me on it because I'll be like, you don't want me to take this off. You don't want me to hurt your eyes.
Izzy, I just need a book of your comebacks for everything.
For real.
Izzy's like ready
You
to
didn't
I
DM me.
I
What's
want to
the
be
book
like
I
you
say
when
to
I
this
grow up.
person?
I
he
can't
was
work in customer
literally
service.
These are,
like,
like,
why
very
are you
select
just
moments
sitting
in my
there?
life,
And I'm just
though.
like, I've already told you the reason and you are not listening, so I'm not going to repeat myself. What's your name? My name is Nicole. My supervisor is this person. You can contact them this way. Let me give you all the numbers. Go ahead. It's fine.
You know, I don't think I can work in customer service for a long time because I feel like I'm way too petty and argumentative.
There's a reason why everybody says it's the worst. It's the customers.
My favorite is the people who have been doing it forever and they're just like half dead inside and like have the customer like, and I'm like, y'all are magic.
Yes.
But no, for real, my wedding comebacks are only like a 50-50 shot of happening in real life because sometimes I just turn around and run away scared. But
I am the supervisor. There was only one instance where that worked for me when I was actually the supervisor, and it was so powerful for me. I just turned around and like, I am a supervisor.
I just like to be like, do you think I give a shit about this job?
It's for real.
Report me.
We were in the drive-thru the other day, and the person in front of us was yelling at the cashier because the line was taking so long. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, they're literally just taking your money. They're not controlling anything. I don't know what you're doing up there. I hope you feel better now, but like,
They should be yelling at themselves for choosing a very popular time to go and get takeout. It's their own fault.
I've never worked customer service and I still cannot take people. I'm just like, I will just tell you that you are being dumb. I don't know what to tell you. You're not right.
I used to help run a business's social media and we would get messages with complaints. And those were my favorite because it was obviously our fault on the manufacturing level, not the builder that they hired level, that like there was a hole in their house because the window broke or something. And we would just get the weirdest messages and people just screaming at us. And I'm like, you realize we're like two people. I wasn't even my job. Like I was just a project manager that helped out. Like just screaming at you for no reason. I was like, yeah, this is why I hate everyone. Like it just confirms it. Like anything where you have to be customer facing in any capacity is like, yeah, this is it. This is why.
The worst. Okay. Should we end with our favorite dark romance authors? Because somebody asked that.
I think we should end with our favorite light and fluffy romance.
I know. So I was literally thinking, and I'm just like, I don't really have any favorite dark romance authors just because like I'll read them, but not any kind of like regularity where I'm just like, yes, I'm gonna buy this person's stuff.
I mean, I think we all have one, and it's Katie Robert.
I was gonna say,
as a group,
Robert.
Unanimously, I think we can say we all recommend Katie Robert.
Disagree.
Just go.
Amo Jones for me.
But you can have multiple. You can have multiple.
Listen, she's dark. I swear to God, you're the only person I know that has ever liked one of her books.
I need to read one.
I love her, and I see this all the time. Naima, you know this is true. People are like, okay, so I want to read this book because Naima recommended it, and then they always give it a trash rating.
Who?
Yes.
Naima's like, who? I want names.
Reagan.
Hold up, Brandon. Who are you even talking about?
Reagan from Riri Reads.
Oh, that's true.
I know.
Well, Reagan literally has trash taste in romance. Number one. Jess didn't read Amo Jones because of me. She read what do you call? I love her, by the way. We always make fun of her for her
I know she like loves Colleen Hoover, right?
She loves that's all you need to know right there.
Yeah, that tells me everything I need to know. She's great. I like her. She's fine. I'm just
I love Verity. Verity is the only one that is safe from.
No, I want to do like a video where like I taste test Colleen Hoover because I've never read any of her books, and I got
Have
this
fun.
for work.
That's the only one I've read.
I got this
So good.
40% off from work. I got it for $8.99.
I liked Colleen Hoover when I first started reading romance, and then I learned.
I
Okay, I
feel
only
like
read 3, and I only liked It Ends With Us and Verity.
I want to read those 2, and I don't know the third one that I want to read yet.
Skip
We all
Ugly.
know if it's labeled as emotional, I'm like, no. I'm trying that author.
But yeah, Amo Jones is one of my favorites. She's such a queen. And that's it. That's I used to think LJ Shun was so dark, like vicious. I was like, oh my gosh, this is dark. Because I like used to equate like toxicity with like super darkness. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I was like, really? Vicious is not the dark. Vicious was just a bully.
I'm reading. Okay, I've never read LJ Shen before now, but I'm reading Pretty Reckless right now, and like I'm, it's a time. It's very much giving me Wattpad vibes, which is what I wanted.
Yeah,
I very much wanted like reminisce on the bad boy Wattpad stories that I used to read, and it's really give me a time. Oh my gosh! Like in this is not a spoiler. It's just like a little thing, but they were in the bathroom and like he like pulled off her towel. Not great, whatever it happened, and she was like into it, I guess. But then she was like, that was so mean. So then she took his pencil, used it to masturbate, and then put it back. And
oh
wrote
my
it
gosh, I
diary.
remember that. I died.
I was like, this is a time.
I was like, why do I?
Wow.
Pencil?
I wish I like
Yeah.
LJ Shen as a human, but I can't with her. So
I know, not a good human, but I just needed
No.
something. I asked on my story.
Listen, I answered you on your Instagram.
You did, but I was like,
don't
I've never
do it.
heard of this.
I'm
I
stuck on
literally
the
saw
pencil.
people
I
like
mean,
dragging the book that I recommended to you. I saw people dragging it on Twitter today, along with dragging Taylor Swift, along with somebody. Okay, listen, this is I know, but I'm still salty. It was so mild. I don't care. I'm mad. So there's this whole thing. Somebody tweeted, right? And they were like, all these. It's a romance reader, but they're saying that romance readers who are like, are you laughing?
I was like, pencil. I
Nicole
need a
is
little
like,
bit more
I think
girth
she might have
here.
just used it.
that's what I'm thinking. Like,
I don't think
pencil's
she
not
used it.
enough.
I don't think she used it for like penetration.
Listen, and
I
now
think she just used the eraser. I'm pretty sure she specified she used the eraser to like rub a dub dub.
Rub a dub dub. I was saying, I was like, I need a little bit more girth. I need a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm thinking like that's.
I think that's what she did. I'm
Literally.
sure.
Okay, back to my
That's
story.
rub a dub
I'm so
dub.
sorry.
Back to
Because I
my,
don't just like, wait,
Yes,
I have pencils
Heather,
over
Heather.
my issues. This person, he tweeted at me. So somebody tweeted about how romance readers often are like acting like the people talking about romance being trash is oppression, and like we're like going for it like activists. And I was like, honestly, like, yes, I was actually thinking about that this morning about how like some people, and I said sometimes white women defending romance gives me like this is my activism cause and it's misplaced energy. So then somebody replied me. Mind you, I was quote tweeting somebody else, and they were just like, this indicates that authors of color and readers of color don't defend romance, and we do. And there was this other thing about how like readers of color can defend more than one thing, and I was like, well, no, I'm not saying anything about that. I'm literally saying some white woman make romance their activism cause, like they are oppressed because people are like romance is trash.
Yeah.
I think that's misplaced energy.
That's
I'm very
hilarious.
but I'm very annoyed with this person for not knowing
This
what
is about, you're talking about white readers, which is a big thing that does happen, in which it's like, well, I'm a romance reader and I'm oppressed. We're seeing it with responses to the book talker who told us we all have porn addictions. I feel like a very like white woman response of romance is oppressed, like borderline vibes on some of those responses.
I know. That's what I'm saying. The person I was quote tweeting, which I didn't want to like go after this person, this person.
I just went to go look at this person
on Twitter, but I was just like, yeah, I know all of your points. I'm just saying some white women are giving.
It's like she didn't read you saying some white women.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just like, yeah, I'm not saying. I'm saying some white women are the problem, not like only white women can read romance.
Yeah,
like some people on Twitter don't actually read what's written.
Like,
yeah, no, because that's exactly what the Nick was saying with her tweet. Like, she was saying, like, you know, some white women in the community act like they're oppressed because of this.
right.
It's just like how in LGBTQ spaces, like, people will be like, well, I'm also oppressed because of this, but like they don't have also like the other varying identities that make you experience even more oppression than, you know, like they try to equate it, right, to like being Black or something. And it's like, no, it's different. I'm not saying it's still not also there. It's a form, but it's different.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's different when you start layering it all, you know?
Exactly.
Facts.
I think that let's say your only oppression, if you will, is being a woman, right? So you're white, you're cisgendered, you're straight, you're physically, mentally, neurologically, everything is just normal, average, whatever you want to call it. So nobody would comment on it, right? Nobody would persecute you in any way. People still will be like, well, no, like you might have it worse, but I have it bad still. And it's like, but
it's not a competition in who has it the worst.
Yeah.
People are so defensive about their thing.
Their thing.
And they're usually like defensive against somebody who has more layers, right? Or has a specific individual trauma that is worse or whatever. And they're like, well, no, but men, am I right? And it's like, I think you missed it. I think you missed the point over there. It's fine. I'm not articulating well. I'm tired.
No, I get it.
Should we rack some books or authors and close it up?
We probably
we want to just keep talking forever. Like, I'm fine with either option. I'm just asking the question.
I feel like we're gonna devolve.
Okay.
Devolve.
Like we haven't been already.
Yeah.
I mean, the Great American Challenge did come up.
What is this?
I don't feel like that's devolved.
Private chat, or is this?
Oh no,
this
that
was regular.
No, that was really like
that was meant for everybody to see.
I have wrinkles and like super bad under eye. My eyes always look weird on this.
I was literally born with under eye
Get
bags.
some sleep, Naima.
I was, huh?
Get some sleep.
Yeah, I need nicotine.
Okay, here's the question, Naima.
No.
Do you vlog every time you stay up all night, or are you staying up all night more than you vlog staying up all night? Because I swear it's like every week, and I'm just tired watching you. And I'm just like,
I literally have a normal sleep schedule now.
no.
What are you talking about?
Since when?
Maybe like a week ago, I have had
a week ago.
Yeah, seriously.
So I haven't seen the vlog on the normal sleep schedule. Is that what?
Yeah,
It hasn't come out yet.
yeah. Maybe this one will be it.
All right.
I'd be the one stressing you out, Heather, because I'm always still up when you get up in the morning.
You're real. I swear to God.
I don't know your time difference, so you're always good.
Awake.
Okay.
It's 12 p.m. Saturday here. So
12 p.m. Saturday.
And Jess Owens. I'm always just like, why are you awake? I know it's hours later there. You should be asleep. Did you guys see that Jess stayed up all night after the live? Did anybody watch whose channel was it on?
Beautifully Bookish Bethany.
Yes. Okay, thank you. She stayed up all night and baked a freaking apple
I saw that.
pie.
I was like, no. I would have been asleep.
Sleeping.
I would have been asleep after the live.
Okay.
I'm going to bed after
Asleep
this.
since the live ended, and it was like 11:30 my time, and I wake up to like a tweet from Jess being like, "I'm still up," and I'm just like, "What is happening?"
But like, what do you consider late?
Listen, for me,
This grandma is in bed by 11.
an individual person,
Uh-huh.
anything after 11 is late for me. For me, looking at other people, like, why aren't you asleep is like 12-ish. I'm just like,
Really?
Oh, that's like 2
I-
I
a.m.
sleep
I'm like,
till 1 regularly. I would literally.
I understand that not
One in the
everybody
morning or
likes me,
afternoon?
but I'm like sleep obsessed. I'm just like, how are they still awake? Like, do they have the option to go to sleep
So-
right now?
to me, it's like, like nothing good happens after like 2:30 in the morning. Really.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm like.
That's true.
You should be asleep.
Once it hits 3,
Mind you,
I'm
I'll
gonna go to sleep.
The devils are. Oh my god!
regularly
Something
activity
just hit my window.
pre-pandemic.
Why?
I think nothing exciting
Semi-regular.
happens after 2 o'clock. Have none of you had sex after 2 o'clock? Then
No.
Well, I mean, like nothing good happens. Like if you're out after
You're out and
You're out.
you're
Yeah.
out and
like out and
about. Except for when it's like post-concert stuff, like that has often been my life, in which I am in the car with all the band, and we're like headed to the Waffle House to get like
The
some
Waffle- I love Waffle
3:30, 4
House.
a.m.
I miss
waffles.
waffles.
I love Waffle
My
House.
favorite.
Chocolate chip waffle.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't like
that is
breakfast
like
foods.
the only
Can't
time
relate.
in which like something fun has happened after 2:30 in the morning. But then I fall asleep in the car and we roll up to the house and it's 6 a.m. So
Okay.
I'm dead to the world for the
You're a
next day.
mom. That's her.
But I love like
Where did
I will be like so tired, but I can't sleep, and then I'll take melatonin, and I'll have like these thoughts, like in a melatonin induced haze, and I'll post stuff on my private Snapchat, and then I'll look back in the morning, and I was like, Deja, what were you talking about here? What was this
What
about?
were you- what
No,
were you-
really, melatonin like
It creates
messes me
a,
up. Like
it's a
especially when I'm
different world.
already tired.
Yeah, when you're already tired and you take melatonin, it's literally like you're high. Like it's
Yeah.
something else. Like when you're already so exhausted and you just pop that melatonin, it's a different world. I will advocate for it. It's honestly kind of fun. I don't know.
y'all are doing things I'm not doing?
Melatonin is natural. Okay, leave me alone.
Natural.
It is. And the gummies taste so good. Like I just want to keep eating them. I'm like,
If you've never seen the map density for Waffle House in Georgia, you should look at it because it's hilarious.
the what?
The density of Waffle Houses in the state of Georgia is hilarious. I had
The density.
we had 2 or 3 in where I went to high school in Georgia. And we would go in the middle of the night, and then a teacher would show up, and we'd be like, "The fuck are you doing out at 2 in the morning?"
What are you doing
When
here?
you see teachers
Don't
out,
you live in the
So
school?
weird.
Steph is like, no, I don't live in the school.
But yeah,
It's funny.
It's just
It's
really
funny
funny.
because the reactions when the kids see you is hilarious. But my reaction is to shh. There's a kid. I've got to go the other direction. Like I'm hiding from you. But I teach 5-year-olds, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah. I would turn around and walk away from people I worked with if they didn't see me first.
This
The
is
great thing about still wearing a mask is that I'm like, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't seen me.
okay. This is true, but like, I can't
I
sleep.
need to read that.
I can't sleep. What else do I do? Okay, sometimes I have to take it to extreme. Sometimes I have to go to the Benadryl level. Okay, it's extreme sometimes. No, for real. Sometimes I'd be like 2 Benadryl, melatonin, because some days I'm like, I don't want to be awake anymore. I'm over this. And then I'm like, I'm not tired.
Now I feel like I need to read Why We Sleep, but I'm not a sleep
So bad.
problem person.
The way that I get myself to sleep, not great. Don't recommend.
No, same. Because when it's like 1 p.m. in the afternoon the next day and I'm still awake, I need something. So
When
I
it's
need
1
to
p.m.
actually fix myself.
Oh, I don't drink coffee. Well, not really. I drink it occasionally, but not regularly. Yeah. It's not the coffee. I don't know what it. I just have problems. That's what it is. Anxiety.
Sleep.
I'd be
Well,
so
but
tired at work
they'll need
all
sleep.
day, and then as soon as I get home, I'm like wide awake.
Listen,
Period.
we already talked about this, and we also
Megan, I
about
just told you
reading
have. I told everyone you had horrible taste in
Reading
books
tea.
because you didn't like this lovely series right here. Everybody, if you have not read the Elite Kings Club, read it immediately. So
The first book is garbage.
I'm tired of you.
Just that I read it.
I tried to read your Fixer book by Jessica Gaziella.
Listen, I can't believe you have the audacity to DNF that. Like,
there's some tea happening right now.
That's the one I put down. No, I put down there.
No, you put down Monster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Izzy also DNF'd her first ever Jessica Gaziella, so we're just not
I
gonna.
had issues.
It's a pattern.
I haven't started.
There were issues with him hurting her, and I told you I don't like that.
Yes, you did.
And you said that wasn't a great one to start with anyways, so it's fine.
I did.
Okay, I will recommend if you want a dark mafia romance in which you really want him to cut her finger off.
That's again.
Look, it happens, and it's one of those things in which you're like, yeah, that's not something I want, and then you're in the book cheering it on. Like, absolutely do it. It does not happen. Don't worry. Something else happens. I recommend Dark Mafia Prince by Annika Martin. That's a really good one. And Nikki Sloan, you can't go wrong with.
I got to read.
You can go wrong with Nikki Sloan. Several of us were in a group chat where we attempted.
Disagree.
And we all agreed that you
I think Nikki Sloan has a variety of options, though, to start with.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on her books. I've liked the same number that I've disliked. So
I want to try her Doctor Professional series because that one book, what was it called that we read?
The Initiation that you guys hated.
Oh, could not stand. I hated it.
You like this Amo Jones book. I bet you The Initiation's not that different. Just older.
Because it's, I know what it is. I know why Naima doesn't like it. It's because the hero is not like toxic and like alpha and on top of things. He's just like, all right, like I don't know what you want me to do about it.
Yeah, he's a bit of a mess.
Wait, what book are we talking about?
The Initiation.
By Nikki.
Wait, that was how the character was? I would think that too.
Hero.
When you're making
he was just like, I'm doing the best I can. Like things, I want the company, so I have to play along. I'm just like,
but
I'm not into this dynamic.
Anyways, I just feel like that she has the best variety options. Like if you want like age gap or different stuff to like dive into. And yeah, that's why I would say Nikki Sloan's a good one to look at if you're curious.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I definitely try more of her stuff.
Yeah.
I'm scared to read this one. It's been on my TBR for forever. The Dark Mafia Prince one.
Oh, it's so good. Ruthless Creatures is really good as well.
Okay. If you want dark paranormal romance, I really like Lexi C. Foss for this. Either her vampires, her Omegaverse, or her angel. Any of those. I like all of that for dark romance with paranormal in particular. And then I feel like there's another one that I'm like really into.
Feral Sins. That one?
It's not dark, you loser. It's not dark.
It's the best paranormal romance.
But we're on a dark
They didn't ask for dark paranormal. They asked for
exactly.
Well, I choose to think that was dark paranormal, but you know, feel free to educate us.
Fine.
Enlighten us on what you meant.
My first paranormal romance was what is it called? The Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I don't know. I feel like some elements in there could be dark. Don't laugh at me.
Listen,
I'm just imagining the vampires in their Matrix jackets, and I can't stop.
Because of that, I was just like, I am not into this look.
Their leathers and their shit.
I don't know what to tell you.
I just imagine them in the Matrix outfits.
That's literally it. That's literally it. And I'm just like, this is not hot. I don't understand how I'm supposed to look past this outfit.
I loved it.
I loved it. Sadist can get it.
No, I didn't like Sadist's book.
You did it?
No, I feel like I'm the only person on this planet who didn't.
It's okay.
My goodness.
It's fine.
Every time, this is me. Every time people talk about stuff I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, sometimes I get upset because I'll turn off my camera to have a funny picture, and then people think that I just actually like left. Like that I have something to do, and I'm like, no, it's like needed value. Laugh at me.
Laugh.
Some people that don't understand your content and all of the editing you do.
I couldn't get through like the reread I tried to do on Black Dagger Brotherhood. That was a no-go. Those books are trash.
Yeah.
And their Matrix outfits.
Y'all kill me.
Just like dodging bullets. That's it. In the Matrix outfits. That's it.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Bree's talking about Sacrifice. Is that Sacrifice by Katie Robert? Because that's a great book.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
But that should maybe not be your first paranormal.
I want
I
to
know.
try.
I'm like,
I feel like you got to pick your creature type. Like, do you want shifter, vampire, fairy, whatever, and then go from there.
And then what level of bonkers do you want as well?
Mm-hmm.
Side Changeling series is great.
I like that one. I like that.
I'm
one.
trying to figure out how to like start that.
With the first book.
Read Heart of
Book.
Obsidian first.
Heart of
The
Obsidian
first
first.
book, Naima.
Wait,
Naima,
the first book?
Read it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
No,
know,
read
it's a
Heart of
series.
Obsidian.
They
How
have,
it's
they
12.
have numbers. You know, 1, 2, 3.
Open.
No.
Open, slave,
Yeah,
Don't follow the
You can-
numbers.
No, but I went to the library they were all out of order. I'm like, so do people not read these in order or what? Like, I don't
So they
really
just don't
get
put
it.
them. It depends what you want. If you're planning on reading the whole series, start from the start. But if you don't know if you're going to like the series, but you like dark romance, start with Heart of Obsidian. And then if you like it, go back and read everything.
Yeah.
That's
It's
what I
like
did.
start with book 10.
Or skip it and start with Silver Silence.
Okay.
I like
But that's
Silver
not
Silence.
dark. Silver Silence is just like a warm comfort read. So that's
Start with the first one.
they're like the 3 starting points.
Heart of Obsidian.
Like,
Ignore them all. Besides Steph, Heart of Obsidian.
I was backing you.
Okay,
And no. I'm saying ignore Nicole up here. Steph's correct and I'm correct.
okay, but I've only read the first book, and I really like the first book.
Yeah, then keep reading in order.
Then you're good.
But
But
book
Yeah, but I
Book
think
2 is
my
probably a
mom
bit
had liked
dodgy.
the first book. The first book I think was cute.
I like
Yeah.
it.
I
I
don't
like the whole
like
series.
like-
honestly.
listen, I heard there was
I
a
mean, she
serial
was cute,
killer.
as in like I liked her. Like she was cute. Like I liked. Like she wasn't like cute, like
Yeah.
fluffy. She was just cute. You know.
Oh, okay. Got
That's
it.
what I meant.
I'll
I
start
feel
with
like
the first
Nalini Singh can do no wrong. It's fine.
Yeah.
I've liked everything I've read by her. So.
Same. She's probably my most read
Is
author
it the
now.
thriller?
Oh, I haven't read the new thriller.
I didn't mind it. It's not the greatest, but
I hated it.
not terrible.
I was so sad. I was like, oh no.
I have
Exactly.
I have actually the two of her thrillers. But I haven't read them yet, no.
This one's my favorite.
Yeah.
I love this cat so much. Anyways,
She was doing it before she,
you do that.
you did, and you came back and you're like,
I just don't do the tongue though. But I'd be like, you're right.
Oh my word.
All right, anyone else have other recs they want to
I mean,
give?
I really like Little Dove by Layla Frost.
Yeah.
I want to read that
Oh, I
one.
didn't know. I didn't know.
I had no idea that was a book you loved, Heather.
No.
Just want you to know that. It's kind of a lot to start with, maybe, but
I actually didn't think it was, but maybe I'm.
I feel like it's not like a very dark execution, but I feel like there's a lot of things that people could, that if they've never read a dark romance before, they might be like, well, how is this okay? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm prepared for this.
I wasn't
Um,
Just trying to think of things that are more dark romance than suspense.
I like Dirty Kisses by Kenya Wright. It's a mafia.
I need to
romance.
I need to read that one.
I liked it. I really read the second book and I didn't like it as much though. But
Book
the
two's messy.
two, the pacing, I was like, Miss Girl, are we okay?
Yeah, book two felt messy in a weird way.
Yeah, I don't know. The pacing was very much confusing. My brain didn't like. But I still like the book. I gave it like 4 stars. But like the pacing had me. But read the first one. Do it.
It's very good.
Book 2 is messy though.
I like Dark Notes also by Pam Godwin. That one was pretty good, even though that is teacher student. That was like, it was good, but by the end I was like, what?
You know what? Actually, the Protege by Brianna Hale is not that dark for a Guardian Ward romance, I would say. But it's a little taboo and dark.
I think I'm tired because I keep yawning.
You just yawned. One
I
yawn.
know. I yawned like 3 times in this live.
Oh, I just saw that one.
The dark romance that Naima and I bonded over was Deviant King by Rena Kent.
Oh, I forgot that existed. That's so fun.
I like Rena Kent, although I haven't read one of her books in like forever. But she does write like sociopath heroes. Like there's this one duet where he is the stalker, and it's like
so good.
It's like rape fantasy and consensual non-consent, but like with rape fantasy and stuff. So it gets to be a lot, but the second book kind of lets you down.
Yeah.
First book though, really good.
Nicole and I read Rena Kent.
We did. We read Reign of a King.
I haven't read that.
And I didn't read that one. And I
gave it 3.5 stars
and see how it was, and then I never did. Also,
it was good, but it was good, but not great.
Yeah, I think we both rated it like 3 or 3.5.
Mm-hmm. Good, but not great. I want to read more of her stuff though. I feel like
me too. She comes out with stuff like I can't
left and right, but I don't know who she is because we tried to like look to see if she was like a POC author to like because we like to try and make sure that we're including them, and like I couldn't find nothing. Like not
really, there's no like pictures of her anywhere.
No, the only thing is that she lives in Africa, but like she could be white. I don't know. People live in Africa of different races. I was like, who? Like, there's no information about this woman. Had me very much.
I love when people have a good pen name and they're that hidden. Like,
the only thing is like she lives in Africa, like with people. I don't remember.
With people.
I don't remember.
Doesn't have an Instagram. Or does she?
No, she does, but she only had pictures. We were literally stalking her Instagram trying to find.
We were scrolling through all the pictures.
Damn.
Yeah.
No hand. Wow.
One book that I mean, a lot of people love this book. I didn't particularly like it, but I could see why some people would like it. Like a lot of my friends gave it 5 stars. Is Pestilence by Laura how do you say your last name? Oh, yes. That is the one where the hero shoots her in the back with the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right.
That's right.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, so I was like, a lot of people love that. I didn't, so I can see why like that could be.
I
like
loved that book at the moment, and then upon reflection, hated that book.
Upon reflection.
Tore through that book. Thought this was great, and then was like, oh, this is kind of actually terrible. And then I thought about like the setups for the other books, and I was like, oh no.
I bought that. It was a complete cover, but I was like, this cover is gorgeous. I freaking love it.
All those covers are beautiful.
I was like, this is gonna be amazing. Kayla from On the Fritz, buddy read that, and I'm just like, I'm hating it.
I'm hating it.
Hated it.
But did you hate it though? Like, what did you rate it?
2 stars.
That's not hate.
Nah.
That's 2 strong words from Nicole, though. 2
that
stars.
Is Nicole. Yeah. But I feel like 2 stars is dislike. Like one is
I feel like I rate everything 4 stars. I literally
for Nicole, I feel like 2 stars is I didn't like it. Like I hated it.
You do rate everything.
It's all personal. Personal scales.
Yeah.
We can probably add Yakuza Lover.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
if you want a dark romance manga, Yakuza Lover.
That's fun.
But he like didn't do anything.
It's still dark romance.
You see other shit, but he like didn't even do
anything. It's volume 1 of a manga. It's not going to have that much in it, but it's like the beginning of a dark romance. He's in the Yakuza. Like, what more do you want?
It's the mafia romance, now the dark romance, because he did nothing. He was just like, oh, wow, you're so spirited. I'm into you. Oh, like I should protect you from the bad guys, but I am a bad guy. I'm not bad. It's fine.
Which is what happens in every mafia romance.
Yeah, but it's a dark romance, and also
this is me.
It's dark romance. Like it's going to go darker, but okay. Not gonna argue with you.
So you guys don't consider?
Well, you know I don't have the patience. You know I'm out at the beginning. I'm not impressed. I'm just like no.
I consider most mafia books dark romance. Yeah, because usually there's kidnapping and other threats of danger.
There's something in there.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like it rarely is
More
a
often
mafia
not than
romance
it is than
light
it's
and
not.
fluffy.
Right.
Yeah.
I do, but I also just kind of consider them their own entire subgenre, if that makes sense. Like I don't typically, at least, I don't know. Guess I'd have to look at my list. But if I'm doing a dark romance recommendations video, there's usually not a mafia in.
But see, I think dark
opposite.
romance is hard to pin down as a specific subgenre on its own because it's so closely linked in with other, like we talk about dark paranormal romance, and I think
even some mafia I would say are dark, and some I would say are just romantic suspense with a mafia thing. You know, there's a wide range and everything. But
Run Posy Run if you want a sociopath for a hero.
I do, but I'm scared to read that.
Content warnings for revenge porn, kidnapping, and some shitty behavior in general.
Yeah, you just have to tell me, like, is the main character emotionally okay, or are we going to read about her being sad for 80% of the book?
She is okay for the most part.
So
what is refreshing in this is you get to see the character that is not the virgin or the golden child find love and have a man murder for her. Oh, there's also murder on the page.
It's just a given.
I like don't even mention that. I feel like really bad.
It's pretty.
Every time you're like content warning for murder, I'm like, that's like most of my books. Maybe I should mention that sometimes, but I never do. With Kate C. Wells, since she's been so popular on Twitter and all around, I kind of trying to give like really comprehensive stuff on her so that people aren't sidelined by like there's murder in a mafia book. Like we may assume that. Right. Exactly.
Other people may not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was movie level violence, so I was like, I should probably mention this. So, like, it was full on like headshots and stuff talked about on the page. So I was like, I'm gonna say something about this because I don't want anyone to be harmed by a book I wrecked.
I feel like this is just me. I kind of don't have a problem with people dying in almost any way. It's just like if it's torture or like they're living with their physical harm, if that makes sense, then that will bother me more than like they graphically died. I don't know why that is. I assume because guess they weren't the main character. We don't care that much about them anyways. But that's like, it doesn't bother me to see somebody die. Really ish. It's very ish. It's still like I'm not hardcore on anything. It's fine. But like I would rather read about somebody being shot in the head and dying than like they cut their hand.
I can see that. I just, like I said, I literally just am like, I just try to give content warnings for anything that could possibly trigger anybody because I don't want somebody to come back to me and be like, you didn't tell me.
Right.
Even though obviously also it's not, there's a whole mixed bag of, is it truly your responsibility to cover every single item?
Right.
No.
I went on a rant about that.
Sometimes I'll reread a book and I'm like, oh, I did not remember that this was should be mentioning it. I recommend. But for me, I think because same. Like I don't want to harm anybody, but also I don't want to list every single thing possible in every single book. Yeah. I try to go with, would I assume that this is in this book? You know, like violence in a mafia book versus like this is just blindsiding you on the page, and it's something that like I
was surprised at the volume of it in this book, so that's why I warned it personally, like and put it as a note
for Run Posy Run.
Yeah, it just surprised me how much was at the end of it. Okay. And how there's just a lot of violence in that book. Not necessarily towards the heroine. It's just there's a lot. But like I said, I note it because I know that every single one of my viewers isn't a mafia reader and doesn't have the same assumptions
Right.
that we all have. But again, it's all choices.
I love a good violence moment.
Oh, I love a hero that will kill for his heroine, and that is exactly what happens in this book. It just was like, I was like, oh shit, I did not think he was going to go that far.
That far, yeah.
So,
does anybody have any?
I would say those are very different dark content, though.
it is. Red Posey Run's very different than Untouchable, from what I know about it.
Untouchable, the entire darkness is that he sexually assaults the heroine and is manipulative and kind of a sociopath a little bit, but is that type of thing. It's not violence against people, if that makes sense. It's literally the sexual assault at the beginning. So yeah, different content. I always assume this too, and I think this is we need to wrap up, but I think that this is always tricky because there are so many things where, like, to you it's completely obvious, to the point, like, a few years ago my husband wanted to make a grilled cheese or whatever, okay, and he's like, I want to make it, but like, I want you to walk me through it. I'm like, all right. You put your bread in the pan, like, well, he didn't know to use butter, and to me, like, on his bread, and to me that's such an obvious step that, like, I didn't mention that step. Like, I told him to get the butter out and stuff, like he had all the stuff, and I was like, all right, you put the bread. So there are things that are so obvious to you that you generally don't think to mention it, and to somebody else it's not obvious because they don't know.
Well, like, I have a friend who needs pregnancy content warnings and miscarriage and stuff like that. And they will ask me, hey, have you read this? Do you know? Because nobody content warnings that. Like, nobody puts a note on that. It's rarely mentioned if it happens in a book often.
Oh, I do. I won't mention every time if somebody gets pregnant. But if
like, usually like traumatic pregnancy and
trauma,
stuff, yeah,
or miscarriage or loss or any of the things, I will mention that for sure.
Yeah, it's gotten better recently. I've noticed more people doing it, but it's one of those ones that, like, for a long time, I never saw warnings for it.
Yeah, apparently.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that. Do you guys know the book The Lost Apothecary? It's like a historical fiction fantasy. Apparently, there's a pregnancy in it. Didn't know that. Doesn't say that. I haven't read it, but, like, one of my friends, again, she doesn't like pregnancy, and so she chose it as her book club book, and it's like a known thing. And someone was like, oh, I'm reading your book club book and it has a pregnancy in it, and she was like, great. So I was like, interesting.
Yeah, because there's some people that we just don't want to read about it necessarily too,
right?
Yeah.
Or you're not in a place for it, etc. And exactly what Nicole said.
I guess this is just my personal interpretation, because I think your answer is correct. But for me, erotica is just, one, obviously, it's 95% just sex. And secondly, it's just, like, the dark content would be in a kinky way only, if that makes sense, rather than like a storyline.
I think of Charity B as being like dark horror erotica. Now, after reading Skeleton King, and Tamika read R.I.P. by her. And I think the line, too, is that in romance, sex drives the plot forward and the relationship forward. In erotica, it does not do that necessarily. Sex is just there on the page versus driving a plot or a storyline forward. It's not a romance. Like, a romance book with sex, if you took the sex out, should no longer really work.
Right. I agree.
And then the endings, obviously, are going to be different.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're done. I think we have literally killed our energy. We're just.
I'm sleepy.
Me too.
I've had to pee for the last 45 minutes.
We have run out. It would be okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I know we were on for a very long time. I know we covered a lot of very interesting things that were not on the docket, but I'm happy with it. It's good.
That's what these conversations are for.
Yeah, just
They really
conversation
are.
just flows.
hopefully, if anybody truly was questioning where they thought the lines were or were not, they got an answer. So there we
It's
go.
a blurrier line, I feel like. That's
Yeah.
I know. But
Yeah.
well,
The lines are blurry. That's life. Lines are always blurry.
Yeah.
I mean, not okay. No, they're not. But people say they are. Let's put it that way. Well, I think it's right about everything, but the rest of you like to blur it. It's fine. All right. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for participating. And that's it. That's all. So
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
bye.